เ Hey, welcome one and all to yet another episode of WhickTV, the cross-ideological space where we come together, right? And we discuss topics of the day, political, cultural, silly, serious. We do it all here, gang. Today we have a good one for you. We're going to be talking about the Second Amendment. And I want to make it clear, this isn't strictly a debate on whether the Second Amendment is good or bad. None of that. That might come into play later. But specifically, we're going to be talking about whether or not the Second Amendment is useful and necessary to oppose the government of the United States of America. Does it have any bearing in that regard? Is it still up to date in that regard? Or is it just useless when it comes to fighting the government? Can militias who are having their Second Amendment rights supported, can they oppose the U.S. military? We're going to find out. I'd like to thank everyone here for coming today, both my audience and my guests. We're going to give them a brief, concise introduction and opening statement, and then we're just going to get into it. I'll interject if I need to or if I have questions, but otherwise I'm just going to let them go at it today. So thanks again for coming, gang. Thanks again for being here. We are dual streaming. So if you are in my Twitch chat and you want to also give me a view on YouTube, I'm going to provide that link for you in a second here. You can please go there and give me a view there. We're trying to grow the YouTube. But with that, we're going to start with first-time guest on my show, 𝕵𝖎𝖎 or 𝕵𝖎𝖎? How do you say it?
𝕵𝖎𝖎. It's the old spelling.
𝕵𝖎𝖎. Excellent. 𝕵𝖎𝖎, what do you think? Introduce yourself and tell us your thoughts. Go ahead.
Hey everybody, how's it going? I'm 𝕵𝖎𝖎. I'm a slam poet from Montreal. I run a poetry slam. I thought this was a really interesting debate because I've been watching the American political circus fall apart. And I see a lot of right-wing culture trying to rally around the Second Amendment. And I think that's like interesting. But unfortunately, I think that there's not much there. There's not like a culture to rally around. It's just a bit of a gun worship kind of thing. So I do politics, I do music, I do poetry, all sorts of weird stuff. So you can see me at twitch.tv/𝕵𝖎𝖎.
Hey, from Canada. I didn't know you were Canadian. Now I'm regretting.
I know. Ah, geez,
They
I'm sorry.
snuck in, gang. Maybe I do support the Second Amendment. We'll see. Next up, we have Todd from Half-Baked Takes. Go ahead.
Hi. Thank you, Wick, for having me on. I'm Todd from Half-Baked Takes. I stream sometimes, and then you can watch my videos on YouTube. Half-Baked Takes. Been on a hiatus over the last couple months. I was running a political campaign for a Republican in Ohio, then was writing and researching for a published article, and now I'm graduating with my master's in public administration. So it's been busy, but here soon we'll be back to going more consistently. However, on the point of, is the Second Amendment, again, is the Second Amendment a useful tool against fighting a tyrannical government? I have a quick little thing. Just while I personally can find many uses for firearms, as they can be an incredibly effective multi-use tool if properly used, this is not fundamentally the reason for the Second Amendment. The core purpose of the Second Amendment is the right to bear arms to defend against a tyrannical government. At the center of the American ethos rests the ability of our citizens to defend against dictatorial rule, specifically through the threat of civilian militias. Documents from, the Federalist Papers, number 29, all the way to this great document, the U.S. Constitution, spell out these simple but very important truths. You can look to countries that took away gun rights from the Nazis, taking away the Jews' ability to carry firearms, to Mao taking away the Chinese, all the way to the Khmer Rouge. All of these took advantage of lax or no gun culture. So to defend against that, I support the Second Amendment.
Okay, thanks for being here. Really appreciate it. Haven't seen you in a while, buddy. So welcome back to the show. Next up, another first-time guest on my show, the Paradigm Shift, please.
Is it really my first time here?
It is.
Feels
really
like it's not.
We've talked before on other shows, but you've never been.
Definitely, that's probably what I'm thinking about. Hello, Wick. Thank you for having me on. I'm the paradigm shift, and it's way too much for me to begin to even explain what I do. But just consider me a variety politics streamer that does a little bit of poetry as well, a little bit of art, a little bit of music, and a little bit of political campaigning. Things. That's the easy way to put it. My take is kind of a unique one. I don't think the Second Amendment matters when it comes to a tyrannical government, period. I think the American populace has been weakened enough that they would probably take up arms against themselves before they ever did it against a unifying force that was trying to oppress them in any tyrannical or dictatorial way. I think I said that word right. That's it for me. That's my opening statement.
Well, thanks for being here. I'm excited to see where this goes in the open. But before we get to the open, one more individual, no stranger to this show, someone who has been on maybe a little too much. 𝕾𝖍𝖎𝖙, please go ahead.
Hi, Wick. Thank you. Everybody, you can find me at 𝕾𝖎𝖎𝖙 on Twitch and YouTube. I did swear an oath to defend the Constitution, and that includes the Second Amendment, and I look forward to doing so here today. My argument is going to be very straightforward. Intuitively, it makes sense that when you arm a populace, they're more able to resist tyrannical influence. And empirically, I would say it's true that when populations are armed, they're more able to resist tyrannical influence, but also just general incursions. So unless you want to be invaded and conquered, it's probably a good idea to arm the populace.
Okay, and with that, let's get into it. I guess my first question would be, to those of you who are supporting the idea that the Second Amendment can fight against tyrannical government, raise your hand if you've been in the military and served. Neither of you? Okay.
No, I got my hand up.
Oh, I didn't see it. There, well.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got a little delay, by the way. But that's okay. Okay. So yes, knowing the capabilities of the U.S. Armed Forces and how our strength isn't just in our armaments, but in our infrastructure and intelligence gathering capabilities, do you really think that militias armed with shotguns, rifles, even AR-15s and things can stand any chance against a modern military force? And why do you think that?
Yeah, 100%, absolutely. For like a multitude of reasons. I think it gets thought of as like this battle between F-16s versus AR-15s. It is not just as, what military or what fighting force has more advanced or is, more technologically capable or has, a better command and control operation or the ability to intelligence gather, like all of that shit. The U.S. military does it better than any other fighting force in the world, bar none. But the problem is that we operate so effectively because we have a doctrine that calls for 10-to-1 logistical support to infantry support. So for us to conduct effective operations, we would need an incredibly massive fighting force to take on the U.S. population. These militias would be massive in numbers, and then they would be regionalized and have very capable defenses within those regions. And the United States military would have to fight a battle across the third or fourth largest country by land size, and then on top of that we have 330 million people.
Do you think that there will be a mass uprising? Even if there was a mass uprising, surely you don't think that every single US citizen would be involved, correct? If
you started asking guys like me to go kick in the doors of US citizens, I promise you there would be you'd have a problem getting guys like me to even fucking do that. Let's nip that in the bud right now. You'd have the problem of a mass exodus of the U.S. military because people would be joining the other side. And then on top of that, let's say we do start kicking in doors to take the guns of, the U.S. citizens. I have to take a fire team into, everything from fucking Section 8 homes all the way to ritzy gated communities going through, countless. It would be urban warfare on a scale that would fucking make you cry. Death and destruction like we've never seen. That's why this is so beautiful, because it's like our nuclear program. Okay. It acts as a deterrent. Okay. It's a beautiful deterrent.
Okay. What do the other side here think about that? What are your thoughts here, Be Weird and Paradigm?
Yeah, I really want to push you on like this massive uprising. If anybody was going to respond, it would be small pockets, and those pockets would be easily dismantled by a surveillance state that is able to show up at the night and separate you from your wife and family. Like, you just target the key leaders and take away the thing they care about the most as quickly as possible. And usually the US Army has the advantage of information. That's kind of one of their major advantages. So that's the part I can't get over.
So
You
I
can have
want
all the
to
friends you want.
I
Yeah.
want to ask about the level of. So I think the deterrence is a great point. When you make it just unfeasible, even if it theoretically could happen, if you make it unfeasible for the U.S. military to want to do this, to actually start like bombing cities and going into houses because there's a risk of people in there being armed, I think that functions as a massive deterrence, just because you don't want to kill half your population, and you also don't want to risk the casualties that come with doing that kind of operation. And the other thing here is you wouldn't need. There is like a clear thing such as defender's advantage, and we saw that most clearly in Afghanistan, where you had a group of people who didn't even make up the whole country of Afghanistan, but they were not as well armed as the U.S. military, but they were fighting guerrilla warfare, right? They were on their own turf, and we were having to go in there and fight them on their ground. And we're not in Afghanistan anymore, right? There is a clear like issue when you're going against a highly motivated and armed population on their own territory. That's the whole point of the Second Amendment, to say, could the U.S. military, do they have sidewinders? Do they have tanks? Do they have all this shit? For sure. But first of all, it's not even clear they're going to use them. But also, even if they did use them, they have to use them like against guerrilla forces that already have a defender's advantage.
I would agree that guerrilla warfares and like defender's advantage, these are all very good points. And America is a very complex like battle map, let's say. But the key disadvantage, again, in the Afghanistan war was information. They didn't understand the language. They didn't understand the culture. They didn't understand the history of the warfare between different tribal leaders. And so they got sucked in to fighting random nonsense, disputes that had nothing to do with the overall strategic objective until they wasted their time in the graveyard of empires. But that would not be the same in America.
Why would it not be the same in America?
They understand English. They understand the culture.
Wait, we had interpreters. We paid them a fuck ton of money in Afghanistan, right? The problem is not. Yeah, the problem is not that Americans like speak English. The problem is.
May I?
You're going to be attacking people in their own fucking land where they know the land.
I want to give Paradigm some space here. Go ahead, buddy.
Are we under the assumption that the money that we spent in Afghanistan was spent wisely?
No, we're not under that assumption.
Okay. So, and I'm gonna relate this and try to make this work just for the sake of trying. So, the military-industrial complex can probably bleed out like a good, let's say, $2 billion a month. Won't really harm it, right? We spend probably around 5 times that on social services, and most of these social services require, because we are a melting pot in this country, to have interpreters. If those interpreters are shit, and we know that the military-industrial complex interpreters are shit, wouldn't the point still stand that there's a lot of logic and customs within that country, especially with them knowing the layout in and out, that could make them, let's say for the sake of argument here, because Be Weird brought it up, couldn't they, like, I don't know, tell one side one thing and then tell another side another thing, and since they barely give a shit in one way or another, all it takes is one person getting paid off to say, hey, what they said was X, Y, and Z when it was actually A, B, and C. I think we gotta look wider scale. Yeah, like, we gotta look wider scale than, I think it's really... not that it's bad to argue this, but I think comparing the way we went into Afghanistan as a U.S. military and what we would do in our own land requires us looking at the two types of people. How tribal is the United States?
But we bombed the fuck out of Afghanistan. We treated Afghanistan like a fucking sandbox. We wouldn't be able to do that in America.
Why not?
Well, is the argument that we fight our own people better than if we fight people in Afghanistan?
They have
Remember
to,
what I said at the beginning of this? See, this is why I like doing these things, because I feel like people will hear one thing and then hear something else. I did say we'd probably take up arms against each other before we ever were able to unite in one consistent thread to
let's
do.
yeah, if I may interject, yeah, let's talk a little bit, I guess, because this is probably going to be a major kind of impasse that we have. So let's discuss it and let's find the borders of this.
Mm.
The likelihood that there would be a mass uprising against the government. Americans can't agree on anything. Like, we can't agree whether climate change is real. We can't agree whether there's a problem with police brutality in America. We can't agree how best to do anything, really. So, again, outside some really weird circumstances, the likelihood is much higher that American citizens will turn their guns on each other before they ever turn it on the American government.
You wouldn't need a mass uprising, though.
I
this,
feel like
yeah,
Half Baked Takes has a lot to say.
like it's not this mass. I don't even think we should have. I shouldn't have even said mass uprising. This is my fault because I did use that word. These pockets of resistance would not need to be very large. We are talking about a country of 330 million people with a huge gun culture where you're talking about going and taking more guns away than we have people, removing what many people see as a fundamental right, an unalienable right. There would be enough resistance there that you would create enough, resistance to that, our military, that as soon as they started doing shit like they did in Afghanistan, where they started pissing off the populace and started fucking up the culture and doing all that shit, it became untenable for us to succeed in Afghanistan. And we don't even need to just point to Afghanistan. Look at like the French in Vietnam. Look at look at Ukraine right now. Look at the Soviets getting their ass kicked in Afghanistan too. Like this, there's a lot that goes into small pocket militias operating in guerrilla type manners, causing fucking hell to even the most advanced and fucking superior fighting forces in the world. This isn't a one-to-one country on country battle. That's why America's superiority goes away in this hypothetical.
One of the best examples I can think of is like the beginning of this country, right? You had the largest empire in the world with the most powerful military and the most powerful navy, beat by a bunch of militiamen in the New World, right? I mean, if that's why we have the Second Amendment to begin with, and it worked.
I'll tell you that the revolution will not be televised.
That one. Two, hey, Wick, I just want to see if I'm paying attention, right? We did say a modern military, right?
We did.
Like,
yeah.
we're talking advanced warfare here.
Oh,
like,
all
we
the
already
examples.
are on the trend of like, and I hate that this is going to subvert the entire conversation, but it's like a thing when I think about the Second Amendment now. It's like we're already at the point where we naturally ingest AI content and think that's like real and new.
All of my examples rest within the era of the U.S. military being more superior than any other fighting force in the history of mankind. This isn't all of my examples, all the way back to Vietnam.
Also, right now, the people are better armed as well. So, like, yeah, I have modern weaponry. I know the military does, but so do the people.
I tell you, my friends, the revolution will not be televised. The problem in Afghanistan is that the American military could stomp all they wanted over, but they could never, ever take over positions of leadership. But they could do that in America. And it would be kind of hard to tell that those people in leadership are doing the work of the tyrannical government. Is it really a tyrannical government? No, actually, that election was fine. It wasn't rigged. Gosh, it doesn't sound familiar.
Be weird.
This is the key problem: information and culture.
No, I get you 100%, but wouldn't you agree that the people, and I fucking hate this woman, but we have people all the way up to the congressional level, people like 𝕾𝖍𝖎 Taylor Greene, that if given the opportunity where you saw open combat like this, they would somehow become leaders in this. I don't think that you would have the ability to just take out leaders the way that you think you would. Like, dude, we've been fucking just dropping fucking Tomahawk missiles on ISIS leaders for a decade. Like, we can do that elsewhere. We can't do that in this hypothetical.
No, the key argument I'm making is information. I think the U.S. Oh, sorry, I miss you.
So I think it's. Are you good? You look a little. Yeah,
cross chatter.
Todd, you good?
Yeah, my fault. Is it? I'll
That delay is crazy,
Yeah, the delay is
son.
a lot.
That shit is taking me on a loop. It's like Guitar Hero, but like 40 milliseconds behind.
Yeah, my bad.
Okay, so
Yeah,
I
my fault,
get
my
what he
fault.
was saying.
Hopefully it gets better. I killed my recording, so hopefully this clears up. I do apologize.
Oh, good. So what I'm hearing is I like that point. If it were, my thing is like, you'd have to really think about, and I hate that this is an intersectional question, but like you'd have to really think about what type of leaders would exist if the trigger had to be pulled on like actually, overthrowing the government due to tyrannical reasons. Like there's a fascist dictator we're kicking in the Constitution. I think everyone, regardless of political affiliation, would all feel persecuted and would all turn their attention that way. I could agree with that. My thing though is, and this is that shit about America that I love because I keep bringing up when we went to places, what's left after that? I feel like people right now think of the Second Amendment as like less of a way to direct their guns at the Army, Navy, for the sake of it with the tools that they got, SWAT teams, like all of them would probably rather say, hey, there's 300, and I'm sorry for saying this out loud, but there's 330 million of us. But like, there's only but so many like minorities that don't have weapons. You see how quickly it could just be like, instead of us all pointing our directions towards the government, we could just side with the guys with the arms and like, because
I
think
that would happen. No, I do. No, and you're
Solve the real
correct.
problem.
I do think you're correct that there would be a faction that would go, okay, now we're going to use our weapons to help the U.S. military, and then we'll turn the weapons over in this, hypothetical world, and all of a sudden the Second Amendment's gone. But the problem is like the resistance force would be so great that every time you started doing shit as like the American military, you would create more and more people that would turn and become rebellious. Like there's no way.
Finish your statement. I have a few questions.
It's a vicious cycle in this hypothetical, because you would start, reducing the rights of American citizens. More and more people would see those reductions as a call to arms. And then the further and further you get down this line, you would have people all the way, like people that you would never expect to be fighting on the same side, Poor Black people that are ideologically 180 degrees away from the Marjorie Taylor Greenes of the world could be fighting on the same side to protect a right that they see as unalienable and something that can't be taken away.
So, first of all, let me explain to you why I personally am not finding this situation at all realistic. The rights wouldn't be turned off right away. It wouldn't be a switch. It's flipped. They would ease you into it. Frog in a pot of water, right? And they slowly turn that up the heat. And all the while, they're pointing out other Americans as the problem. They're saying, well, no, it's not us doing this. It's those people. And we've seen examples of them doing this before. We've seen examples of them removing the rights of American citizens before. They already have done this. This situation that you're describing has happened and continues to happen. Look at the Patriot Act, right? Look at the treatment of quote-unquote terrorists. All we have to do is label them as terrorists, and suddenly the American people is very fine with taking away every single right that they have, right? In fact, the American people are quite bloodthirsty in that regard. I would also argue, right, that once again, any resistance that would try to get up, again, it wouldn't spring up overnight. It wouldn't spring up overnight. What would happen is the American military and the military-industrial complex would prevent it from ever getting off the ground. They would target the leaders of these, create misinformation, use propaganda, use intelligence warfare, which we have done in other countries to great effect, and we've overturned nations. And when it comes to doing damage to our citizens, like look at Waco, Texas, and what the American military and American government is willing to do to its
That was
citizens.
a completely justified,
And when they do it to you, it
action
will
by
also
us.
be, everyone will be saying that was
I'm sorry,
completely justified too. That's
real
what
quick,
would
David
happen.
Koresh, David Koresh shouldn't have been fucking touching kids and marrying 13-year-old girls, and then maybe the ATF wouldn't have came knocking, and maybe he should have showed up to court. I don't know, but I'm not gonna fucking sit here and justify the death of a bunch of children at the hands of a bad an operation going poorly. I'm just saying it's not as simple as just like the U.S. military is so effective that they would be able to come in and do what they did to Iraq. Like, it would be a long, drawn out, fucking horrific action or operation. There's no way you could do it quickly. And you made that point, Wick. And as you started taking guns away from people, the 350 million plus weapons that are out there in the out there in the populace, we don't know where they're at. We don't know who has them. We don't have a way to track any of it. It's a logistical nightmare for any fighting force that would be trying to take those weapons. Like, the gun ownership in America is fucking crazy compared to anywhere else in the world. And
this is why I love that movie Lords of War, because that was literally I swear it's almost like you watch this movie and you must have just like memorized the script in the back of your head, because that was almost word for word like what Nick Cage's character for the actual real life event happened. And I also, like, something screaming in the back of my head, I gotta say it. As you said, it would take a long time, right? And it's funny because we call Chicago Chirac. Like, in my head, it's like, yeah, you could do it, but what have they been doing in this period of time that would, like, make you see them as possible? Now, could they do this to the entire populace? No. But when would enough people care, is my question.
Yeah.
When
moment
would
you
enough
started-
people care?
I want to answer your question specifically. And I think part of this has to do with a misunderstanding of how, like, the purpose of a militia. The purpose of a militia is not to go invade another area or to invade another community of people. A militia is a community, a localized community, having the wherewithal and the means to defend itself from outside incursion. I love your analogy about the frog in the boiling water, because I think the frog in the boiling water is a perfect example of removing gun rights, right? We start off, and this is every authoritarian regime that ever genocided a group of people or ever attacked a certain locality of a group of people, they always started off at the beginning, obviously, by taking away their right to bear arms. That's the first thing they always did. And so if you're going to attack like certain communities in the United States, you want to start off by removing their arms, right? Kind of get the frog, start to boil the water. No, we're not going to go after your other rights. We're not going to go after your First Amendment. We're not going to, come down and kick down your door. We're not going to target certain political or racial minorities or any of this stuff. We're not going to do that. We just got to get this gun problem under control. And then once that's done, right, once the frog has been in the water long enough for it to get hot, that's when they kick it up to boiling.
My favorite thing about this is that in the original study, those frogs were lobotomized, and the normal frogs jumped out of the water when it got too hot
Got
for
'em.
them.
Boom.
Yeah.
Okay, you
Okay.
understand the analogy,
lobotomy-
right?
I understood the analogy. What I'm saying is that
I just want to develop it.
communities defending themselves. Like, I don't see, at least in terms of like a government tyrannical perspective, I'm not worried about like individual communities forming militias and then going attacking other communities. Historically, that's not what happens. Historically, what happens is when communities form a militia, they defend themselves against some kind of external force. In this case, that would be the federal government if it was trying to invade communities, infringe their rights. We don't want them to do that.
Keyword community. This gun culture you speak of, who does it?
No, wait.
extend to?
No. He's right. He not necessarily like completely, but it helps his point. It helps Todd's point. I gotta point that out. Like, I'm thinking about it because I've read the paper. You're right. Like, you couldn't cover all this land fast enough for like the rest of the people to catch up and figure out what's going on. My thing is, and I feel like that's what you're about to repeat, is when would I need to know now if I were to continue on with this on the side of, yeah, that makes sense, and that's why we have it, because when would the trigger happen? Do you not that you would know a specific, like if Maryland gets all their guns taken away, Rhode Island will respond. I'm not talking about that. I mean, as a general populace, when do you feel the natural trigger would be?
You think this is fair?
Lobotomized.
You think this is fair to say that the moment that they started calling for buybacks, like mandatory buybacks on weapons, that you could see the same, like people could level out on what becomes necessary to defend against?
Todd, let me ask you directly. If right now in your state, they called for mandatory buybacks of guns. They were going to mandatorily buy back your gun. They were going to compensate to you, but you had to. They made guns legal.
I lost mine in the river, so I don't know what you're talking about.
Would that be enough? Would that be enough to cause you to go to war with the American government? Would you rise up?
Started, I'm telling you, because what you're talking about is people that you would have to.
I'm asking you directly. It's a really simple question. If they took away the right for you to own guns in your state, would you go to war with the American government?
I think I don't think that action alone.
It's a felony.
Because the problem is, as soon as you did that, people would get killed. People would start dying, and that would be my bar. The moment I started seeing guys that look like me fucking walking in full kit, kicking doors in and blasting people just for the sole reason of not giving their weapon up, yes, I would fight.
What about you, Lactoid? Would that be enough? If police started enforcing the mandatory buyback on weapons in your state, would that be enough to cause you to go to war with the American government?
I don't know. I don't know if that specific action would be enough for me to do that, especially with how invested I am in the system. I will say that, I'm not, and this is like an issue, maybe like we don't want to go like afoul of TOS. But at the same time, I do think somebody breaking into my house without a justified reason is committing an act of aggression against me.
Yeah, and like the problem is there would be so many cases of unjustified killings in this, because we would also have to have like a court. We have rules in this country. We have a rule of law, and if the fucking U.S. military tossed that rule of law out, I promise you that's an even bigger reason why I would be.
But it wouldn't be against the rule of law. It would be within the law. The law.
No. I swore an oath to defend. I swore an oath to defend the Constitution, and the moment that Constitution is being openly and just blatantly violated, I have a moral duty to go fight that government. That's the oath I have.
I got an analogy for you. I've heard it described that fascism isn't the jackbooted thug who shows up at the night to knock down your door. For some, fascism is security and safety and knowing that your people are in charge and that the kid that you sent to school, all the people who are there. When fascism comes to America, it will come wrapped in the flag, carrying a Bible. The hardest part about it is the information and the culture. It's not the direct violence of a jackbooted thug. Americans have this insane idea in their minds of what fascism looks like. American fascism will model itself on the culture. It will look like brothers. It will look like family. It will be urban, rural.
I was talking about people like me. I was literally saying like it would take. That's why I'm saying it's like I'm sorry, I don't agree with with what you're saying, because like the fascist arm of what you're talking about would be guys like me, literally 11 Bravo fucking infantry, like the guys that would have to go in and fucking do the action, take the action, would have to be people like me. And that fascism, I just don't think me or guys like me will allow for. So it's just like there would be so many more that opposed it,
But you've already
then
allowed
that would
for
be
a lot of
willing to
violations of
enforce.
the Constitution. You've already
Listen,
allowed several violations of the Constitution. Look at the Patriot Act. You've already allowed that. You didn't rise up.
I also was a small child when
I
the
understand, but
like,
But
so
no one did. But
as
no one did. All these
as a
defenders of the
person who
Constitution.
as an aspiring politician, as somebody who hopes to create a better system and to create like a great generation of governance, like, no, I want to reverse as many of those fucking nonsensical bullshit laws that have been
And
enacted.
that speaks well of you. But these laws exist, they're on the books, and you know what? As long as you label people terrorists, as long as you label people certain things, people are very fine. The American public seems very fine about this. This is why I'm saying, and this is why the original question is, let's explore what situation would have to occur for people to en masse rise up against the American government. I just don't think I don't think at this point in our culture, I don't think with the social media that we have, I don't think with the state of information that there would ever be a point where en masse this uprising would occur. They would fight each other, as Paradigm said, before they would ever fight the government.
Well, actually, there's a couple scenarios that Stephen Marsh suggested that could happen that are easy to imagine. President gets assassinated. My favorite one is like a conflict between a sheriff who's like saying who's defending a town's right to be like, we don't gotta fix our shitty bridge, and the federal government's like, no, you gotta fix your shitty bridge, and it just like eventually escalates into some like whole cultural war between, you know, the sheriff who's going on to CNN and Fox News being like, I ain't gonna submit to the federal government. So yeah, it could be any one of those flashpoints, and then you would see like a real conflict.
The government can literally take your land, eminent domain, right? They can literally take your land.
Wait. So,
you want to take this?
Yeah, I just want to. So, like, so this is like the difficult part, because I understand and I agree that finding an exact line where, you know, any individual would fight or not fight is a difficult question. It depends on all the context of of what's going on. It also depends on the individual. Some people are more apt to violence than other people. I myself am not very apt, to rise up. That's just not something I prefer to handle things with words, and I prefer to like argue. I would be very much against politically, and I am against politically things that violate the Constitution and things that violate rights. But you have to agree with that. You know, although the line is blurry, there are some things that are clearly on one side of the line and clearly on the other side of the line, where any reasonable person would stand up and take arms. So, like, I don't know about the Patriot Act, but if they came in my community and started like snatching, people because they had like a minority political opinion,
because they
or no, I'm just saying if they had like a minority political opinion and they expressed that on the internet and the government's like making them disappear out of their homes, at that point, yeah, I think at that point there is an obligation to stand up against that, right? And then I think that for my limit, right, my limit would be hit there as well, and I would want the people, the communities to defend themselves to have the tools necessary to do that if like that critical rights violation happened.
America lives in two different realities.
Really quick, and before I just want to make one other point before we get too far down like these kind of hypotheticals, and like these more like broad brush ideas. Just like on the ground, what we be using as weapons to fight this battle, guys like infantry soldiers still carry M4 rifles, which have basically, when used like the most efficiently, have a slightly better, maybe a slightly better advantage to a AR-15, which is like the most common rifle we have in the United States, and we have millions and millions and millions of, which would be incredibly difficult to take back, even if you began to do this. Like this fight is not. Again, I want to make this point clear: not F-16s versus AR-15s. This is like basic modern rifles versus basic modern rifles. And
no, that's false.
No,
what you're fighting against, it's two groups of infantry, and one infantry has air support, they have tank support, they have defense in depth, they have entire infrastructure, bombs. They have
they're going to be bombing
ammo,
neighborhoods.
They have factories, they have an industrial complex, they have satellites, They don't have to bomb the neighborhoods. They could put a missile through your window, dude. It's very targeted. It's very precise. And yeah, it's just not going to be bombing indiscriminately of cities. It's just going to be coming in, targeting individuals, leaders of groups, and then they're gone. And chaos reigns, right? In that
chaos, like that's where more people, they start bombing homes. American fucking home. I don't even care if it's like the militia leader.
You know they bombed
send
American
a Tomahawk missile into a fucking U.S. residential neighborhood. You don't think more people are gonna rise up on the back end of that?
It wasn't a Tomahawk missile, but you know they bombed Philadelphia.
Yeah.
They also bombed Afghanistan, right?
That was different.
But Wick, did you not agree with me when I said that we treated Afghanistan like a sandbox? Would you not agree? Okay.
We dropped more bombs in Vietnam than all explosives used in World War II.
And it didn't do shit. It didn't do dick. It didn't do anything. It would take, the only way for us to have actually won the Afghanistan war and fucking subjugate it, like hold the country complete, is to send in millions and millions of guys dressed in full body armor and fucking handle that shit.
No, I get that we're not there anymore because the cost of occupation was too high. But you don't think we won that war? We absolutely won that war.
The cost of occupation was too high. Exactly.
But that's the thing. That's the thing. We're not occupying. We are the government in this case.
Well, no, they would have to come occupy the communities if they were going to tyrannize them.
This government is made up of the people. This government that you're talking about, the leadership of that hypothetical government is made up of the people, us. So you would have to then use it. You would have to factor that in. They're not just going to be able to operate in the same indiscriminate fashion that we have with every other fucking conflict. Look at Somalia. A fucking just an absolute David to Goliath. Like if David had a smaller brother who was feeble and malnourished, it would be David versus that. And we still had to fucking leave because that occupation wasn't worth it.
Again, I think you're looking at these historical examples of us going into other countries, and it doesn't map one to one. It's disanalogous with us enforcing laws within our own country, right? Like we have a police system that, brutal or not, is quite effective in many ways at making sure that the government and the institutions are still supported. It's very effective. It has been effective through uprisings such as the Weather Underground, other terrorist organizations, through protests, through mass protests of cities. Again, this is something that I think that is just pie in the sky to think that I think it's unrealistic to assume that any kind of mass uprising on a mass scale is going to be at any effective because of the Second Amendment. It's just the Second Amendment is just not.
Wait. Can I ask you why, prior to the Holocaust, did Hitler order the disarmament of all Jewish people?
Because it would be easier, right?
Right. And why did Mao do it with his political opponents? Why? Like every single time you look at this, the first thing is always don't let them fight back. We want them vulnerable. Right? That's always the first step.
Change tactics. Those tactics, right, are old news. The new tact is you can keep them armed and keep them fighting each other.
Yeah. Information warfare. You poison the information stream. Like the hardest part about American culture, like the thing that makes the military strong is that it has a single culture and all of them are doing one thing. Like if you can't organize on a militia level because your only unifying concept is gun rights, Second Amendment, which is not a society. It's not communitarian.
Let's look at the military.
There are already a huge. Can we make this point really quick? There are already a massive number of militias already. So like, and none of this shit has even popped off yet. So like this argument that you're giving me of like there wouldn't be this mass uprising. I think if you could have some like statistical data to point to.
Walking back the walk back.
No, that's not walking. I'm not walking. I'm continuing a point.
Question: how many of those militias, right? Like, how many of those militias would actively rise up? that's the question. There's a lot of people who like militias, like, hey, I'm part of a militia. This is my social hour. We get to play with guns. It's
For
fun,
those guys,
right? Do
for
you
those
think that
guys, their bar
the
is much.
a meaningful amount of them will rise up?
If the army tried to come take their guns, I think so.
Let's take a different question. An easier one.
Yes. I don't
much
even
more
think it would
fun
need to
one.
get there for those guys.
No, Canadian. I can't let you have this one. I said I was going to step in when it was time. I'm going to step in. I got a question, and this is not like one of those, because I feel like when people get on these panels, they just go for the easy layups, and I'm trying to like add a little to the culture. You know what I mean?
I love you, dude.
And throughout all of this, I haven't heard one thing, and it's kind of crazy that I haven't heard it because you brought up how many guns there are in this country. Lords of War. We're going back there. There's one firearm for what? Every 1 out of 12 Americans in the United States? Something like that.
We don't have like a great count, but it is
that was
way more than the number of people.
That's what the arms trafficker who was like got famous and started selling arms to Iran, like that's what he said. There's one firearm, or there's 12 firearms, like something like that. It's
the one we let go for a basketball player.
The Merchant of Death.
Yeah. Yes, the Merchant of Death. Yes. Anyway.
Oh, that Nicolas Cage movie. Oh,
let him
that's
finish,
what
gang.
you're
We get it. Let him finish.
They already
his
got
point.
the reference.
Yeah.
So my question is, what you say these militias can all be rallied around this point in our Constitution because it's binded within our culture. My question is, what about those militias that want payment for defending? Private militias. What about those really super armed dudes who have like tech houses and work with these banks to transport goods? They're organized, deadly, ready, planned, tactical, know how to avoid any type of situation. In a situation where the government's taking away guns, I'm sure everyone could rally around and think to themselves, our enemy is the government. But those mercenaries, those mercs that are used to getting paid to defend private property, where would they stand in this?
You get PMC, dude. There are more private military contractors operating right now than there are U.S. Military members. Those guys could be paid by either side. So I get your point, but I could also go, hey, we'd have a bunch of like really wealthy benefactors on the other side that I'm sure could fund these hypothetical groups that you're talking about.
We also
they're not hypotheticals; they exist.
Well, we can't assume the whole U.S. military is going to be on one side.
That's another.
Right. So,
that point
this leads to what I'm trying to that's why I said I'm not going to let him have this. Then the point is if you're noticing there's so many different vested interests just from this one question, in what world or in which country that exists as the United States of America would there be, what is the one unifying concept that would band all of these groups together? Because in my head, the moment this goes down, the wealthy protect their own. They hire private militaries to keep their, their property safe because they live 400 miles away from everybody. They stay to themselves. All the money gets sucked up out of the economy. Whoever can afford a gun would get a gun, and whoever doesn't have a gun is out of luck. Once the U.S. military starts to make a move, they have a decision to make. We either go against whoever's on that other side that says, give us your guns, or like we're with the people. And if any of those find any divested interest, then the funneling goes down. I don't think America is at a state right now where it could unify based on this constitutional like consent. Because then I don't want to say it, but like then we have to ask about what side the police would stand on.
I mean,
and that's a whole other.
Go, WhickTV.
Maybe Texas
a lot
would
to
do
say
it.
to that.
Yeah, I mean,
Texas.
I just wanted to say, like, I want to get away from the whole like mass uprising. The reality is, just having communities be able to defend themselves is already going to be a massive deterrent. If you order the military, especially with the type of political opinions that people who join the military tend to have, if you order them to like go seize everyone's guns and to like kick down doors and shit, I don't think all of them would follow those orders. I would hope not. I would think probably
I can agree with that.
Yeah, most of them probably wouldn't, right? So you're talking about like a much smaller contingent of the U.S. military and that's good,
Well,
not as well supported as
Lactoid, I
going.
can't let you keep getting away with this, okay, Lactoid? Do you think that they're
Getting
going
away
to
with
tell the
what?
soldiers? You think they're going to tell the soldiers you're going to kick down the doors of innocent civilians and take their stuff? No, that's not what we're going to tell them. They're going to say, "Hey, there's some fucking terrorists who've been been diddling kids here, okay, that have been doing all this stupid shit. They're going to call this team in. They're going to come in the middle of the night, and they're going to think they're doing the Lord's work."
For
That's
whole
what's going to
communities,
happen.
for whole communities of America,
conversation
they're going to
is
call them all pedophiles and just raid them.
They very well might.
It's possible. I would think that like pulling that off on some kind of like grander scale would be very difficult to convince the military that all these isolated pockets of people who just want to keep their guns are actually like terrorists that are plotting something. I mean, I guess it's possible. I don't think it's likely.
Community. If the government said we're going to restrict gun rights to a degree that would violate the Second Amendment, half the country would cheer. Half the country would say, "Finally." Right?
And they stay, and they'll stay.
Would be like, "Hell yeah, brother!"
And they stay, and they stay in their own communities. They're not going to come out and like be the ones that are doing actually fucking raids. These are people isolated. Yes, and they're isolated to their urban areas, and they don't have guns to the same extent that like other people have.
You're quite literally kind of making our point. Yeah, the side that would feel violated would be the one that's more well armed to fucking fight this war, and wouldn't comply and would fucking.
That's what WhickTV is trying to say, and I don't know if like. Maybe I'm high and I'm just reading into it too much.
I want you to come over here. I know you want to be on this side, dude. I know you. I know you, dude. I know you understand. Me and you have been on the same wavelength.
We'll welcome you.
Please, Paradigm, he's begging you.
We'll welcome you. I promise.
With our open fucking arms, dog. Open arms. I'm sorry. The fucking black population in America should be the divide. Pro 2A. Should be. And probably are the most 2A.
Just smoke the weed, kids. Just smoke the weed. I think what WhickTV is, and excuse me if I'm wrong, I think what WhickTV is trying to say is that whichever way you cut it, not everybody's going to be on board. You have to some way make sure that other side that's on board with this doesn't turn on the side that's not on board. That's the only thing that's separated here. Because I hate to say it, but like a massive thing in this country is like the recalling of guns right now. So like the people who are clutching them, who are they being told is the ones taking away the guns? Is it the government? Or let's be real here, it's the left.
No, who's on the left? Let's be real, dude. The left isn't taking our guns. I hate that fucking argument. The left, I'm sorry.
They're trying to.
If they had their world, if they didn't have the opposition that they do, and I'm sorry, this issue will never, I don't think isn't going to fall farther from 50-50. Just like the way that American gun culture is, it's always going to be a very partisan fucking issue that I don't see being something that you could pass through easily with legislation. And also, we're talking about tyranny here. So this would be like a buyback by like coming in and saying, "Hey, we're taking your fucking guns." Sorry, that hasn't never happened in American history. And you guys have to understand that is the bar that I'm talking about. We're not talking about the shit that they've been doing where they're banning fucking pistol grips and shit. Wow, I
get it now. You're not. So what I probably misunderstood your argument to be is that you believe that or I should say, I think the difference in opinion here is that you believe that the trigger itself would lead the people who most closely identify with it to go against the people who would be taking it away. Like just simple, clear, and cut. It doesn't matter how many people do it. It doesn't matter where they do it. It's just there would be a general consensus enough where even people in New York, even people in California, even people in Ohio, even people in Texas, Arkansas, etc., everybody would be on the mind of
People would have different bars, different standards for when that line hit. But once that line would hit, all that would matter is that they're fighting against this. This force trying to take their guns.
See, this is the thing.
Stop.
This is where the problem is coming in. So whenever something like this happens and you have a major change and a major quote unquote violation or addition or amendment to the Constitution, let's say that the most tyrannical thing we can think of when it comes to this happens, and the government is going door to door and taking people's guns away, right? Yeah. They're just taking their guns violently and with force. So out of the people who don't like it, so we already agreed that 50-50. It's going to be about 50-50. Okay, about the people who are cheering and the people who are against. I'll even give you 70-30, right? 70 people are like, no, this is too far. Okay, so out of that huge amount of people, okay, there's going to be most of them aren't going to be willing to do anything except for be mad. There's going to be a group smaller than that that's like, okay, we're mad and we're willing to protest. We're willing to go out in the streets and protest. There's going to be a smaller group than that that's like, well, not only we're willing to protest, we're actually willing to like do little violence, some sabotage, and things like that. And then even a smaller group, a very small group of that, right? It's like a funnel, right? You see what I'm saying? It's like a funnel. A very small group of that would be like, okay, let's go up and we'll rise up. Let's get the guns. Let's go take the courthouses. Let's go take the institutions, seats of power, and do things like that. In that situation, it's not going to be half the country. It's going to be a small percent of the country. Let's give you a large percent even. Let's give you 20%. 20% of the country. In that situation, the American military would just like it.
You're describing all insurgency. You are describing both Vietnam and Afghanistan.
You're talking about guerrilla warfare. That's basic, very basic level guerrilla warfare that you fight when you're working with crazy outnumbered, like being crazy outnumbered. Wick, did you not hear me earlier about the whole 10-1 thing? We don't fight gunfights unless we're in a fucking
strategy is 1 to 10. Tactics are 10-1. You're misconstruing that. The strategy is 1 to 10. We are now numbered 10-1. But when we fight, it's with a 10-1 advantage because that's how we do it. Yes. We don't fight. It's not this fucking battle line. This isn't fucking World War I where we dig trenches. Right?
That's our current doctrine. Which that doctrine is what makes us a superior fighting force to any other country in the world by a crazy margin. You couldn't use that doctrine because you wouldn't have the numbers.
You absolutely would.
Todd, we've already gone through this. We've gone through this like a number of times. You would have the numbers because 10 people would show up to pick up one person at night. Overwhelming force when people least expect it.
So they got to break in
information.
So they're gonna go door to door, break into people's houses, right, and grab them. And you don't think there's going to be like a high casualty rate for doing this? You don't think there's going to be a deterrent there?
The point we've been trying to make over
Bro,
and over
I've watched police officers flashbang children. You really don't know what these
there's also cops that get shot like breaking in, like we're doing no-knock raids and shit, right? In fact,
Breonna Taylor. Look at the Breonna Taylor. Like that was an exchange of gunfire. Several cops were hit. Like damage happens even in fucking them having the craziest advantage. Like come on. No, this shit would
And the question is, so you brought up Breonna Taylor.
You don't think this shit would be on the news?
You brought up, hold on, wait. As Wick said, you can't keep getting away with it. You brought up Breonna Taylor. I'm going to say, who won in that exchange?
The cops won in that exchange.
They did.
Like,
so that must mean they can't. That must mean they never take casualties, right?
Yes, it was just that was an example of a operation that was crazy advantage for the fucking fighting force to go into a civilian's house and still come out with several casualties. And that made, look at the fucking crazy uproar about that. Like, if you started turning the thing that they were going in there for simply just to take
no, that's not fair. I can't let you get away with that one either.
Can't get away with that.
This is not a slam dunk here, but you said there was an uproar to it, and I'm going to assume it has something to do with the thing called Black Lives Matter. I would like to then respond to you with the response to Black Lives Matter. Like, you're already, like, whichever time Like, and it's going to make me say the response to the Black Panthers and the response to the civil rights movement. And, you know, we fought a civil war. We fought a civil war because half of us couldn't agree on one thing. You think that this cause right here would be enough to unify us? I think it would go in a way different way. I think most of the people who realized that they were getting their guns taken away would isolate their communities from the rest of the United States. I think they would succeed. You know why? Because they feel like that one right is the only way that they have any type of freedom whatsoever. While for the rest of us, we look at the other amendments in the Constitution for rights.
The government, and the tyrannical government didn't work in that. Like they would have to subjugate everybody. People wouldn't be able to do that. Like, hold on. Why do we keep getting?
We did that. That's what happened. Remember, like they sent in squads to quell the protests. We covered it in the movement.
But the thing that they were arguing about in that situation was not nearly as cut and dry a reason for you to go to war with the government as starting what I said, which was they go in with a mandatory buyback and start taking everybody's guns away, and then people started getting killed in the process. Those are two very different things. And the response to it, I don't think is I understand. An argument against my point. My point. Oh, man,
I want to do some housekeeping
how do you explain
right now. I
any
want to
other...
do some housekeeping real quick. Okay, gang. This is kind of like the halfway mark. So if you're enjoying the content, don't forget to like and subscribe if you're on YouTube, and if you're on Twitch, hit that follow button. Throw me some bits and throw me some gift subs. Doobie's begging to get in here, but I told him I can't let him in here unless I get more money. So if you give me more money, right, I will consider unleashing Doobie. But until that time. No, Doobie's gonna stay backstage till the open call-in portion of the show. So it's up to you what you guys want to do. But yeah, so far we've discussed the possibility of a mass uprising, what that would look like, how effective infantry weapons would be against the government of the United States, etc., etc. And we're still going. So yeah, don't forget to do all that. Back to the content. Go ahead.
Okay. I want to give Todd Texas. I want to say, sure, you got it, but who's going to finance that in a year? Where are these guns going to come from?
Texas has the 8th largest economy in the world.
There's already
Texas has a larger economy than Russia, Italy. They could finance their own shit. I promise.
No, okay. We're already having troubles producing enough ammunition. Okay. Ammunition costs are rising. Right. And again, once again, the government will have access to a majority of the factories. One of the reasons the South lost the Civil War was because they didn't have the industrial base that the North had.
You don't think people would sell?
North wasn't even prepared.
People would sell. You don't think Iran? You don't think Russia? You don't think China would sell these militias? Ammo.
We don't even have to get into that, right? Like I've met these people. Like you know, there's a lot of ammo stockpiled in American homes, and I think it's enough to serve as a deterrent, even if they can't keep up with the U.S. military or whatever fraction of the U.S. military would actually follow orders to attack local communities based on some theory of, you know, some propaganda that they were given. I don't know.
Can we get off America? How do you guys explain not America then? How do you explain these other areas where we see like a much smaller and much more like less technologically advanced units giving hell to other occupying forces? How do you explain this? How do you explain
TikTok wasn't invented back then? Simple as that.
TikTok makes it just as easy for like rebellious movements to communicate and do pretty sophisticated military operations. I'm sorry, but like look at like Starlink. Look at the shit that like Elon Musk just tossed up in the fucking air overnight and was like, "Hey guys, here you go. Here's GPS to give every fucking Russian tank in the country legit hell for fucking a year."
Which side do you think
they've
Elon
been fighting
Musk
for a year?
Yeah, exactly. Do you think the federal government would be working like with Elon Musk or with the militia?
No, I think goofy billionaires would fucking like Elon Musk would. You could find somebody to fund that shit. I'm just like, hold on, really quick. I want to start getting into like these other examples because like I don't want to talk about hypotheticals. I want to talk about actual examples of citizens having gun rights and being able to fight off occupying forces. Like, dude, how do you explain any of these examples like that we gave you? The Vietnam, like the French in Vietnam. Look at the fucking us in Vietnam. Look at the Soviets in Afghanistan. Look at Ukraine and Russia right now. Like, do you guys not realize, like, I was in a congressional briefing, a DOD briefing, about a year ago today, probably, fucking taking notes about what DOD officials thought was going to happen to the Ukrainian military in the coming weeks. They, at the time, still thought that they were going to get run over and fucking decimated within weeks or months. Guess what? It's been a year, and right now it's kind of like hey, we don't know what's going to happen. It could go either way.
Do you know why? Do you know why the Ukrainians are doing as well? Well, one of the reasons, I won't ascribe it all to this, but the very good reasons, one of the things they've been asked for is American military equipment, not just rifles, but we're talking, javelins, we're talking fucking we're talking tanks, right? We're talking HIMARS, we're talking this high-tech equipment that the militias just don't have access to for the most part, right?
Yeah,
maybe we should change that.
And Russia, okay, AT-4s. I don't know. I don't know if I want. I don't necessarily want AT-4s and fucking 50 caliber machine guns in every Tom, Dick, and Harry's home. But listen. I'm sorry. Like I don't think you guys. You're putting too much on the level of sophistication between what these engagements would look like. Like, dude, I'm sorry, but it's just like you're saying we're gonna fucking tomahawk strike fucking 123 Elm Street, and people aren't gonna fucking lose their fucking minds and like find that as a reason to start fucking fighting. Like, yes, it would.
Wait,
no. Fighting.
Yeah,
what you'd be fighting.
That's so funny. I want to straw man his argument too. Please. Let me have the black vote right now.
Steel man,
the
right?
Black vote.
Right. You do mean steel man, right?
Yes, I'm being facetious because he already said steel man, and for us to repeat it would be lame. So the move bombing happened, and that wasn't enough. It seems like we only seem to get into this mode when it's about an attack on our country. Do you think that an attack by the military of that scale wouldn't confuse people? Because like there's two sides to the East Palestine situation right now.
Yes.
And
no, you're
that's
right.
just straight up a company like
Paradigm. You're right. It would confuse the fuck out of people, which fucking decimates WhickTV's argument because he's acting like everybody would just be on fucking board with what the U.S. military is saying.
First of all,
hey, it was just a bunch of terrorists. No,
how do you think that like if something were to happen and suddenly a home exploded, you know what the news would report? Gas leak.
Wait, now we're on like new levels of like conspiratorial thinking. Like if cops shoot somebody,
this is what happens.
If cops shoots like one person, right?
We're not talking about
the
cops. We're talking about military, CIA,
yes,
FBI.
we're talking about the super cops, the super cops operating in the U.S. Right? You're telling me that they're going to be able to brush all of this under the rug?
Not all of it, but enough to make the
1%
to create a situation and a scenario where the blowback that they will face will be isolated enough that they could take it off one at a time. They don't need to prevent it. They need to slow it down and to scatter it. And so when these things pop up,
aren't you kind of you seem to be like implicitly kind of arguing that the media is controlled by the government? Do you believe
the
that?
media is influenced by the government? Yeah.
Yeah. Do we not have independent media?
So they would just lie.
We don't have independent media.
We do, but again, they'd have to be.
CNN would lie. No.
Wait, hold on.
Don Lemon. You're saying Don Lemon.
You know my
he's still an anchor.
You know my position on this.
But
you wouldn't lie, Wick. You would get on stream and you would tell the truth and you would tell the people that they need to defend themselves.
If I knew the truth, I would
It's
have
so
to know
crazy.
the truth.
They fell right back
you're
into
an
it.
investigator. You would
They
know.
fell
I'm
right
not
And we
an
back
have
into
Twitter.
it.
What about Twitter?
Because I could have
have
sworn like
citizen
20 minutes
journalists.
ago, Wick and 𝕵𝖎𝖎𝖙 said out loud a 10-to-1 incursion. Now you've given them the targets, the independent media, the people who don't make money. Y'all go defend yourselves? That's cool. Are you going to be streaming while you do it? I doubt it. You're going to be caught slipping. You always got that thing on you? They coming through your walls right now. FBI, open up. Like, they
Don't use your phone.
SWAT people. All I'd have to do is pose as a chatter, SWAT someone, and make sure the order went out. I don't care if it happens live on stream. Execute it. If I really thought about the ideas of like what government would do, the independent media would be the first to go. All I'd have to do is create one story, one big story, and then immediately subvert a community.
Look,
it already happens.
There's already
Right.
attacks on independent media in America. They're
Really?
already
Okay.
trying to undermine it. They're already using these backdoors with the major media companies and social media organizations to be able to remove any information they want. This is already occurring. Do you disagree, Lactoid?
I just don't
You
think.
agree.
Okay,
You agree,
I do not. So
right?
I do not agree that if the U.S. military carried out an operation to this scale, that no matter how dishonest CNN is, and we agree. I mean, they're fucking liars, all of them, about almost everything. Okay, I think even they, as journalists, if they're given the opportunity to report on the government killing people, oh my God, they would go out there, and I think they would. Like, to their credit, they got a little bit of credibility to them. They would show.
I want to rephrase.
You
I want
have
to rephrase
no
this
faith.
argument. I want to take this
So
argument
I
and
want
just
you-
rephrase it. Give me a chance.
I want Wick to say he has no faith in alternative media. I want him to say he does not believe
Against
in
the U.S.
independent
government?
alternative media and independent journalists that have the
Alex
ability to
Jones is
post
doing it right
on
now.
fucking Twitter, who have the ability to post shit on Substack and Twitter. You're telling me that they have no credibility and no fucking it wouldn't
I don't
matter?
think they have enough credibility. I don't think they
That's
have
weak
enough
sauce,
credibility.
Wick.
You can look.
Come
You
on.
can look at the response, right? Of how gleefully most of the country would be for censoring these kinds of posts and things like that. Look at what the response to COVID was, and how gleefully most of the citizens got on board with that. Right? You can look at this. Do I think that it would have no influence? Obviously not. It would have some, but my argument simply is it would not be enough. But I want to give 𝕵𝖎𝖎𝖙. I want to give 𝕵𝖎𝖎𝖙 a chance. He's been trying to get in. Gonna give you the chance, brother. Go ahead.
Yeah, Todd looks horribly distressed, and I just want to rephrase the argument and just give another way in on this, I guess. So the way I see it is like the key weapon here again is information. If we're assuming some sort of military operation, if they have the arm of the government, the executive, and let's say the legislative, and they pass a law to shut down independent media to make it increasingly difficult for journalists to do what they do, then yeah, that's going to happen. The U.S. military will try to break encryption on Signal messaging apps in order to, prevent journalists from talking to.
Unfortunate information for you guys. They have.
No, even Signal, bro. That's
You don't think they
killing
have right
me.
now? American Signal Intelligence Agency. Look, I worked as a cryptolinguist in the U.S. military. This isn't new information.
The only thing I think the U.S.
that's-
military lacks in is
you worked
Apple's
in
encryption,
Signal.
and I think that's like what we're like 2 months away from that.
Dude, Wick, I forgot. Dude, I'm so sorry. I do apologize. I forgot. You should know better than anybody the fucking culture within the military.
Intelligence
really-
community is a lot different than the. I've been in two cultures. I was in the intelligence community. I was also in the crew chief or maintenance division, right? So because I reclassed, I'm telling you, the cultures are not the same. They're very vastly different.
That is fair. I probably am very biased due to my combat arms my job. That was like there is a different. I guess maybe I could be biased there. I didn't deal a ton with support, but I just I feel like I would have to look at polling. I probably should have pulled it. What the percentage of 2A supporting members are of the military.
They don't
because,
have to be
again,
just 2A supporting. They have to be 2A supporting enough to disobey direct orders.
I understand, and I do agree. It's not nearly cut and dry. I understand that. I don't. Have I made it sound like this would be a very easy thing. Like, I hope that has not been
Sure.
coming
Yeah,
across.
I
Like,
get
this
you.
would be a very like weird split, and there'd be a lot of people that would be morally conflicted due to like, hey, this is my job, and hey, this is what I believe in. But
Wait, what would be the like intelligence capacity of a militia? Like, what would like I
I
can't
think
even
it'd be
imagine.
They
Like,
know that they know the
a
area,
lot
they know the
better than
community.
Yeah.
whatever Afghanis were working with in the fucking
Yeah.
mountains.
So know the
That's
lay of
all
the
I'm
land,
saying.
know the
Yeah.
tactics.
Look,
know
the local
We know
satellites,
the lay of the land.
the-
That's our
know,
fun.
like,
This is my fucking backyard, dog.
Yes,
Yeah.
the local
around.
hardware store has so many walkie-talkies.
Send a fire team. Send a fire team. At least I have the benefit of knowing the back. That's a point for us too, though, because I've said several times this would be a regional thing. So every single time the U.S. military would have to go fight this little niche community that knows their community super well and could be able to defend and have some real command and control abilities. And they don't need to work with the entire everybody else. They just need to work as a regional unit and fucking cause havoc. Fucking South Carolina could fucking slow the U.S. military down for fucking 4 months. I bet you, without a problem. I bet you it'd be tough. They'd lose a lot of people, but like 4 months in, American fucking soldiers would be like, "Fuck, this sucks." And that's South Carolina. Like,
how many
assuming-
satellites do the Taliban have? Right? I mean, it's not like
expensive to field a militia.
You're assuming, right, that
Not
all of
for
South
the
Carolina would
Not
rise
for the
up.
militia. It's cheap shit. Why do you think the Viet Cong was able to fight a battle for fucking 20 years, being literally poor as anybody else in the world?
All your examples are like
cheap,
wars,
dog.
not civil
Ammo's
wars.
cheap.
also the South Vietnamese army was larger too. That's another thing that people forget.
Well,
And they were on our
It's
side.
like wars.
Hey,
Yeah.
really quick, be weird. Love you. Paradigm shift. Love you. Wick. Love you. Not trying to get mad. I do need to. I hope I'm not coming off this.
No, get mad,
Oh,
man. It's good
no,
content.
no,
I don't
no.
care.
No, I'm on my better. I'm being a better debater.
Oh, yeah?
That's the arc.
Well,
That's the
you
arc.
got a long
Being a
way to
better
go.
You
brother.
want to be a better debater. I'm gonna tell you this right now. Emotions are fine. You should try using them more often. Empathy is where most people end up being crossed when it comes to a debate.
I don't know. In actual politics, I don't think that's true. Maybe in
Wait.
politics,
community,
but
Whoa,
like
wait.
maybe. And I don't care. I love this. And if this ever became something that became monetarily like cool, like feasible for me, awesome. But like, I'm only doing this to hone my political acumen. I don't give it.
You're doing great.
Like, so I don't. I'm out here just trying to get better and actually hone my points. I don't care about that.
Look, you can
less, Paradigm.
look. Just as an aside, this has nothing to do with the debate, but Paradigm's right here. Being emotional is part and parcel to persuasion. You people want to identify with you. If they identify with you, they're more likely to identify with your point. Being persuasive, right, does involve getting mad when you're mad. It involves being upset when you're upset. It involves charismatic leaders aren't boring, droning, anything like that.
100% agree with you.
Almost all I can't think of a charismatic leader who relied on facts and logic. They all appeal to emotion.
no.
Every single one.
Ben Shapiro,
He's
the
not
king.
he's not
Absolutely, he is a political hero.
Oh,
Well, hold on.
Kamikaze, thank you for
Does
the
it-
gift
does it-
subs. 3 tier 1 gift subs. Anyway.
I want to push back against that in a
Has it
second, but go
appeared
ahead.
Has it appeared that I don't get emotional?
No,
when
I'm just
talking about it?
saying.
Like,
You said I'm
I'm
trying
like-
to be less emotional, and I was just saying.
No,
this.
I said I want to be a better
Like, this is
debater,
an
and I
aside
didn't want
thing.
it. I didn't want it to come off as like I was like not trying to fight their actual points, and I wanted to get back to that. That's all I was doing. So
The vibes
I
are good.
apologize.
The vibes are
The
good.
vibes
I-
are great, man.
I don't
I'm
agree.
sorry,
So-
it might be the fact that you can't see my eyes. I apologize.
I don't agree that getting emotional is good, especially not. You can be expressive and you can try to make your point emphatically.
You could be over emotional, and that's bad. I agree.
No,
with
but
you.
like emotion is not, when you're engaged in emotion, you're no longer engaged in the course of rationality. The
I
only
don't believe that's true.
emotion could, like, if you're making a point that you're emotional about, you could be right or you could be wrong, you could be rational, you could be irrational, but whether or not your point is rational or irrational is not related to how emotional you are when you're giving the point. And
Yeah.
I think, honestly, I don't know, I just don't agree that like getting emotional
You wanna
is
match-
I don't think that you're getting emotional, Todd, but I'm just saying, like, don't like the idea of
Just
just
wanna-
getting
I just-
emotional.
This is
I
the
think-
aside.
I don't think emotional. No, I
Yeah,
know.
we'll make
it's about
another panel. We'll make
Sorry.
another panel on this.
Okay.
I'm going to
Yeah.
segue it back.
To the
This is
point.
what a town hall meeting would look after one of those houses got
Yeah,
blown
exactly.
up, and
No, I-
everybody's
dude-
arguing with one another
Dude,
or saying what we're
you
going to
don't
do,
have to-
and somebody's going to take the fucking stage and use that energy for their own dumbass personal political
No.
gains, because that's fucking
You're-
what people
you
do in
weird-
America, and it's going to like splinter these
Okay.
communities
I've been
and render
doing
them
that for-
unable
Okay,
to form
stop.
militias.
Everyone
I got
stop.
you.
We're again, I'm recentering this conversation. It's an interesting discussion, but we could have this discussion another day. It has nothing to do with what we're talking about. Thank you for the super chaps, and thank you for the bits. We're on a hype train. Let's wick out together. And because we have reached the threshold, Doobie has some problems, and he's gonna come in
God damn it.
address those.
Those are some super
this?
chaps.
Hello.
I do be.
Hi.
I do. Man.
Howdy.
I think you're all stupid. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Nice.
I don't think you're stupid.
Which I expect.
Thanks,
You're
Doobie.
thinking about this the wrong way, I think so. I don't think it's reasonable to say that, they would like pick out one gun owner at a time, 10 people, and raid their house and take out like one gun owner's house. That's ridiculous, right? What they'd probably do is have some kind of buyback program. They'd inch this along over time, right? So just like we do with the bump stocks, and then like different ammo magazines or whatever the fuck. And then eventually they'll say, hey, now we've given you guys you have a period. If you don't turn it in this period, it's now illegal to have this thing, right? So if you have this thing in your home, on your person, in the back of your car, it's now illegal. Right? And then all they need to do is wait for one of you gun nut freaks to shoot a cop, or to shoot a security guard, or whoever the fuck is checking your bag and saying, hey, you shouldn't have this illegal gun. All you need is one of you, like baboons, to say, oh God, no, it's my gun. You can't take my gun. You can't take my toy. Shoot a cop in the face. And then suddenly you're a domestic terrorist. And suddenly the militia that you're part of is a domestic terrorist group. And oh shit, now we can go and round up all these fucking domestic terrorists, right? And if you guys fight back, you're going to be shooting police officers who are trying to enforce the law. That's going to be spun in the media. And oh God, now we have these fucking gun nut crazy people in the woods murdering police officers. Most people are not going to want to be part of that, even if they like. Right, they're not going to want to risk their families, risk their lives, etc.
Back to blue or Second Amendment?
To protect
sides would have this moral
desire,
conflict, right?
your desire to have your fucking toys.
Doobie, you're right. This is why I said, like, Wick's analogy with turning up the water with the frog, I think is really relevant here. I agree with you that if you start eating away at the Second Amendment, you could get to a point where enough of the U.S. populace is disarmed to where it doesn't matter anymore. That's why it's so important to like not even start to let it get to that point, right? Like, yeah, keep it as it is now politically as much as you can.
To keep eating it away.
No, don't keep eating away, because then it will get to the point where they'll take away all the guns.
There's no good reason for like the average civilian to have like a handgun, right? Or like a rifle.
What are you talking about? There's no good reason.
Okay. There's no good reason
Really quick,
for this to be the case.
As much as I want to go down that road, can we? That's not the point. Unless we want to do that, and we're going to go completely off the tyranny shit. That's fine, but that's
how's this tyrannical? Right? How's I mean, do you think all laws are tyrannical? Like, is that your position?
No.
I feel like it's reasonable to say, hey, these things are dangerous to our country. People are murdered thousands of people are being murdered every year because people are allowed to have these toys, and because people get impulsive, they get drunk, whatever the fuck it is, and they end up shooting themselves or other people. So we're going to say, hey, actually, this is too dangerous for people to have, right? So that's not tyranny. That's a government taking care of its people and making sure that its people aren't hurting themselves.
Okay, so the question is a tyrannical government. So yeah, I guess if you again want to talk about this government that is not completely tyrannical yet, then yeah, we can talk about that.
What do you mean by tyrannical?
I was talking about like a U.S. or somebody comes in, becomes like a dictator, starts removes the freedom of speech, removes the Second Amendment,
so the Nazis
removes the Fourth
are
Amendment.
Yeah, that's not. But I think the realistic way this could happen in the United States isn't that, right? It's not like some dictator popping up overnight and converting half the population to like Nazi drones, right? What seems more reasonable is something like happened in Australia. Where there's some big event or multiple big events, and eventually people just get tired of kids dying, get tired of people being murdered on the fucking streets, get tired of people shooting themselves, and say, hey, actually, we don't want these fucking guns in our neighborhoods anymore. That's way more. That's more realistic.
People would not comply with that. Is my point. People would.
They'd be breaking the law.
I lost my gun in the lake. I lost my gun in the river. I don't know what gun you're talking about. Nobody knows how many guns
and then what
anybody
happens?
has, or
So
Doobie,
people
Doobie,
lie.
American gun culture.
You know
Hey,
how
one at a
many
time.
guns
People
One at a
lie.
time. One
People
at
lie.
a time.
Okay, can we just run out? So someone says, actually, officer, I don't have that gun anymore. Right? And the officer says, okay, cool. And then later he's out shooting in his fucking backyard or in the desert somewhere and he gets caught with a gun. Well, shit, suddenly you got an illegal firearm and you're going to fucking prison because you've lied to the police. You put our country at risk. You put the community at risk. So you're going to jail because you have an illegal firearm. So yeah, lie to the cops if you want to, but the moment you get fucking caught, you're going to prison.
All right, but I think the bar that you've gotten to is guns are illegal in the United States, and I think enough people would find that to be a violation of constitutional, like
you can change the
very
Constitution.
fucking. I understand, but until
Well, that's
you
what I'm
do-
advocating for.
Okay,
I'm not
well,
advocating
again,
for doing this before the Constitution. Obviously, you can't.
Well, guess
take
what?
away
If
people's
you
guns
do
before
it
you
by
change
the letter of
Constitution.
the law and you do it in a
Let me
lawful
ask
way,
the rest of the panel right now. I'm curious.
I guess it is a different story, but okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. So I understand that the specific topic was whether or not regulated militias would be effective against the U.S. military. But do we want to extend it to whether or not we should be having the Second Amendment at all? Do we want to extend it to that? I'll let you all decide.
It's fine. Yeah.
So even if we were to stay on
Does
the
anyone
original
not
topic,
want that? Let me know, please. Don't be shy. Okay. Paradigm doesn't want that.
Well, I mean,
that
like,
way.
I feel like I can just keep hammering that point home, but we can get off on the
you
more
can't hammer
muddy.
shit right now, actually. So, Wick, even if we were to stay on the original topic, right? So, if you guys are going to argue that actually, militias in the United States would actually be a problem to the U.S. military and could actually do some real damage to the government, to our communities, etc., and to people who are opposed. That's just more reason to get the guns out of these fucking crazy people's hands. I don't want an ISIS-style group popping up in the United States and taking over the fucking country or swaths of the country, right? So if your argument is, oh god, actually these militia groups are extremely dangerous, well shit, we should probably get rid of them.
Having the possibility for being dangerous or being able to, cause a lot of damage is not the same as being dangerous.
Currently. Right, but the moment you try to take the toys away, you're going to murder people.
So go.
What you're saying is the moment you try to take the fucking toys away, is they're going to murder people. They're going to murder cops. They're going to murder soldiers. They're going to murder. They're going to murder politicians who try to take their toys away.
Okay, so
try to take their property away.
When they go to a modern day Black Panther, militia, and they start blasting these, African American gun owners.
What do the Black Panthers have to do with anything? What do you mean? Do you think that police are just going to show up and shoot people at random? That's not what I'm talking about.
You don't think a lot of people are going to have a moral confliction with the shit that's going on there?
No.
Then I would have to
pass
say,
a law.
do we not live in America right now?
Yeah, like what's happening?
Take
it away, Paradigm.
saying?
I mean, he laid out the garbage for you.
I'm not talking about shooting the police showing up and shooting people at random. I'm saying, hey, if it's illegal now to have these firearms, and these groups saying, hey, if you take our firearms, we're going to fucking murder you, right? People are probably going to say, hey, these groups are dangerous. We shouldn't have these groups of firearms because they're fucking dangerous.
You're not gonna constitutionally. You're not gonna get a constitutional amendment to take people's guns away.
Before you respond to that point, I am curious, right? Because Paradigm looked like he had something to say on the Black Panthers content. And I think I know what he's going to say. I think I know where he's going to go, but I'm going to let him go there. Go ahead.
Why you doing this? Why you setting the stage for this, man? Yeah, everybody knows where I'm going to go because it's like, if you think it wouldn't happen to a modern day Black Panther Party, then what do you think happened to the original one? I'm just
going
really
in there
trying. I'm really trying to make you recognize that the only reason why we even have a law about protesting with guns at the Capitol is because we were like, no, we don't want that group doing that shit right now.
Dude, I know the history.
So wait, isn't that an argument in favor of us then? If we're opposed to those laws?
Because
they weren't coming in there.
They're racist laws, right? They were founded on racist intentions. They were trying to disarm black people. We should get rid of those laws.
And what happened? And what
What do you
happened?
mean?
Yes,
Yes,
they were. Yeah, these fucking
We're
racists
trying
trying to take
to
away guns from
repeal
black
those
people. That's what
laws.
happened. Fuck the
We're trying
racists.
to
Put the
repeal
guns
those.
back in the hands of black
And-
people, right?
Yes,
And
that's my
and what
point.
currently exists as a dynamic in this country? Those laws still exist.
Let's
right?
repeal them. Hey, come with me.
Let's repeal.
Join the NRA
What
with me. Let's
Doobie is
repeal
trying
them.
to say is it seems that the only people who respond that they're going to murder people are these crazy, sadly, right-wing militias because they already took those rights away from other people and it didn't cause that stir that you're looking for.
I agree. Gun control proponents are deeply racist. I agree with you.
Yeah, they are. And also, all my point with that is that there would be a lot of fucking hubbub about fucking anybody going in and shooting several fucking black people just for the fact of owning guns when we just saw a summer of fucking rioting over a much darker, like grayer fucking contention, like
I'm
something
starting
that
to
wasn't
think the brain is half
nearly as
baked.
dry.
Well, how do you
know-
get to them just shooting black people for owning guns? I'm saying, hey, if this is illegal, and they say, hey, actually, black people, if you want to use black people, I don't know why you went straight to black people, but if you want to use black people, you're gonna say, hey, black people, it's illegal to own these guns now. You got to. And those black people say, hey, no, actually, cops, we're not going to turn these guns over. And then they resist. Yeah, there could be a gunfight that happens. But that isn't them just shooting black people at random like you're trying to portray it. That's these black people who are criminals now holding illegal firearms and willing to use violence to keep their illegal firearms. So they should be shot.
That's what you're talking about, a hypothetical where the United States has completely banned firearms.
Not even completely.
guess
We could just say certain styles, right? So if we banned rifles or handguns, I'd really like to ban handguns. If we did that, right? Do you think that these scenarios wouldn't play out? You wouldn't have people like yourself or others who are obsessed with their fucking toys, who like would say, "Hey, cops, if you try to take my gun away, I'm gonna shoot you." You honestly think that wouldn't happen?
I actually want to
No,
give
I do
give an
think that would
example
happen.
Yeah,
I
and these
think that would happen on a
wanna give an
wide.
actual
I think that would happen on
plausible
a wide
scenario.
scale.
I wanna
like a
hear
mass-
Be Weird.
like a pretty
I want to hear Be Weird.
plausible scenario.
I want to hear Be Weird. Go ahead. Floor's yours.
I gave an example earlier of how this could actually play out, which would support Todd's argument, which is, let's say president gets assassinated and it's a sort of weird ascension of power, some new person who takes over the arms of the executive and uses that military might, and people recognize this. Do you think that people in the Second Amendment community are going to be bonding across the political aisle when this happens, or do you think people are going to fall back into their political camps? That's the key problem. You keep using these words like community, but community only stretches so far. And when the problem is urban and rural, it's very hard to create those like battle lines. Those very like supply lines are going to be incredibly difficult to manage. Like, I think that's kind of the key problem here.
Yeah, what's
You
more
don't
like
have
this,
to
you'd have
scale.
like a
It's gonna be
balkanization
horribly
where there are like
messy.
different factions of like fucking little militias and warlords murdering each other for like their different ideological position.
Yeah.
Like they're not gonna say,
just
oh
let
god, we all like
Okay,
guns, so
and
let's work together.
again,
Balkanization.
another point to this is it works as a deterrent. Like, obviously, that if we did enact these laws and somehow you did constitutionally amend it and make it so that fucking basically all firearms or every one that would be useful within a modern combat would be banned, like it would be horribly, horribly messy. So we don't do it. That's why it's a good deterrence. It's like
I
a
see.
nuclear program. Like, God forbid we ever have to launch those fucking nukes. But like, yeah. If we
So
do,
the
it's going
idea-
to be horrible and devastating. Like a lot of bad shit's going to happen.
They're
But
so
I guess you're
fucking
right.
crazy. If we take the
Like,
toys away, they're gonna kill people.
Yes, you're right.
So we shouldn't
Cool,
take
that's all.
I can
that's
see in
ridiculous.
America that it's 4 countries, Texas, California, you got the legislative bloc in the Northeast and then the Midwest states, and I can see those battle lines appearing. That's like one
So LARPy.
scenario.
This
So
is so LARPy. I
this
can't
is
see it.
like-
Jenny.
what is
It's like
happening?
a fantasy maybe, but
Yeah.
like I don't know. Otherwise, it's one and done.
It's
the
pretty-
military have way too much power.
It's pretty LARPy. But one more question I had, and I thought of it. I mean, it's not really the government, right? But like, wouldn't a community being armed? Yes, I think it would protect itself. It would be able to protect itself better from like a government kind of coming into and taking their shit and fucking them up, which is why every dictator takes away the guns first. But doesn't that also? I know there's but there's some examples, I think, of communities using firearms to defend themselves against other communities, right? I mean, isn't that
Sure.
isn't that fucking useful? Isn't that?
Give me an example in the modern, like I'm talking the last 50, 60 years, of a community defending itself successfully against the U.S. government.
Against the U.S. government,
the U.S. military, right?
Yeah, I don't think the U.S. military has like FBI, crossed the line.
The FBI, ATF, any government institutional
none
police.
Of those.
I mean, under the theory of under a theory of deterrence. I mean, I guess we don't know fully like how much it has been deterred in certain respects. But no, I can't think of a single example. I mean, I can't think of examples of communities defending themselves against other communities that are attacking them. I can point examples
so
of that.
What Lactoid is actually pointing to is the idea that the way to fix racism in the United States is you arm the racists, then you arm the non-racists, and you have them shoot each other in the streets.
No, if you arm a community, if you arm a community,
straw man?
Absolutely.
Name them specifically. What communities?
Yes. So the Korean community during the LA riots, they used firearms to defend themselves against other communities that were coming in and destroying their shit. Right. Whenever you put guns in the
rioters.
It was rioters made up of surrounding communities. It wasn't the Koreans that were destroying their. It wasn't the Koreans that were destroying their own shit.
Hold on, there were Koreans. During the LA riots, there were Koreans who were raiding other Korean shops.
They were a statistical. They were like a statistical irrelevancy, right? It was the Korean community.
A small group, but to say that a community is attacking the Koreans makes it seem like some kind of race war. It wasn't that. There were riots happening. These people were attacking every fucking community.
Okay, then the community. Sure.
And yes, some of these shops were owned by Koreans who had guns and shot people.
No. This is a complete rejection of the history of the LA riots, right? The Korean community specifically, because America is very segregated, had like an incredibly segregated, isolated community, right? They were an insular community, and the police, yes, it was absolutely true, and the police defended the white communities, right, in LA, but they weren't defending the Koreans. They left the Koreans to themselves, and the Koreans had to defend themselves, right? This is absolutely true. This is absolutely true, Doobie. They defended themselves. This is an example of, again, when you arm communities, like it makes it much more difficult for other communities to come in and attack them, even if those communities are armed as well. Because again, deterrence. Even if you have a gun, you're going to defend your own property. You're going to defend your own community more. But that doesn't mean that you're going to be more incentivized to go and attack another community if you know they also have guns and they also have the ability to defend themselves, which is again what you saw.
Okay, I think that your telling of this event is like ahistorical.
I read the whole Wikipedia, Doobie, okay?
So the police didn't back off and protect the white communities, right? That's not true. They backed out entirely because they didn't have the gear necessary to protect any communities there, right?
They protected the white communities?
No, they didn't. The reality was that the places where the riot was happening were primarily populated by minority people. Right? So they didn't retreat to the white communities. Just that the riots weren't happening in the white communities; they were happening in the black and brown communities primarily. It's not true that they only protected the white communities. Now, secondly, say that the Koreans were isolated when they were in fucking South LA, surrounded by black and brown people, like it's kind of ridiculous. They weren't isolated. They lived in the area like everybody else, right? So when shops are being torn apart by rioters and looters and shit, a lot of those shops in chunks were Korean shops. Right?
Was there a Koreatown?
Some of those people shot the rioters, shot the looters. But
was there a Koreatown?
What you don't hear is that there were black and brown business owners on the other side of town who also tried to protect their business with guns.
Yes, I would like them to be armed as well.
This wasn't a specific community defending.
Was there a Koreatown?
What this was business owners who valued their property over the lives of rioters. That's all this was.
Okay. Okay. Was there a Koreatown?
Yes, there is a Koreatown in LA.
Yeah. Was Koreatown attacked during the LA riots disproportionately?
No.
Okay. I guess this is an empirical question. I encourage everyone to do your own research. Koreatown was absolutely attacked. And
I'm not familiar enough with the LA riots to say which side is correct here. So, yes, do the research on your own. Don't listen to streamers for Research King.
Doobie just said when I brought up dictators taking away guns, like from people they wanted to oppress. Doobie said based. I want to point that out. I'm not sure it was ironic. I don't know if that was. Okay, again.
Well, the reality is, I
guns
think
can
some
still
people should be oppressed, right? So if you're suggesting that these militia groups are dangerous, right, and that if you try to take their toys away, they're gonna overthrow the government and murder people, then yeah, these people shouldn't have their weapons. They should be oppressed, right? We shouldn't allow them to be running around with rifles and body armor. So
Oh,
if that's
wait,
oppression
no.
to you,
No,
then yeah,
no,
oppression.
wait,
No,
Doobie,
I'm
Doobie,
saying
Doobie,
the dictators.
Stop. I want to give
can-
Paradigm some
Yeah,
space
can
here.
I-
Go
can
ahead.
I-
Go ahead.
because
Right
they're
back,
gonna
I'm
clip
here.
the shit out of this.
Engage.
Okay,
Engage.
Doobie, I want to add on to that point because it's funny that you made the quip about I want people to be oppressed, but like that's kind of intrinsically how this society works with guns. We say we don't want them in the hands of dangerous people. We say that all the time. It's about the person behind the gun, not the gun itself. Well, then, if you can agree that this person shouldn't have a gun, isn't that infringing upon his Second Amendment right? But we all agree this person is dangerous. So if you're getting groups of these people together where their sole intention is based on the Second Amendment, and if you come take our guns, we're going to kill you, I don't think you want them to have guns because that doesn't serve your purpose of defending your Second Amendment right. It's for everybody, not just for some random gun nuts to go around shooting police officers, shooting random people, whatnot. So while people can use these things for defense of their property, of their livelihoods, of themselves, at the same point, you are giving credence to if everybody should have it, then nobody should have it because it's going to get into the hands of these dangerous people, whether we want them to or not. If you don't have a gun and nobody has a gun, you don't need guns. I don't think we're going to want to need guns in the year 5000. I hope we're not still shooting people in the year like 2100. I hope we can just like kind of clear this entire like country of them, but that's oppressing people. I have no choice. You've given me no choice. Y'all have said yourselves, yo, if somebody comes to take my gun, I'm clapping you. I kind of don't want you to have a gun.
Exactly.
For what? For what?
I
for,
said
for
that
what?
if you did it in an unconstitutional manner.
No, that's ridiculous. So you're telling me that
What do you
hold
mean?
on,
It's
you're telling me that
ridiculous?
if
That's a
we
pretty
pass
good
a
bar
law,
to hold.
if the
It's a
majority of
pretty
the
good bar to
population,
hold.
hold on, if we manage to pass a constitutional amendment, right, to get rid of the Second Amendment, and then we pass, like, democratically voted to say, hey, you can't have your guns anymore, Mr. Half-Baked, you would be like, oh, okay, cool, here are my guns.
Yeah, if they went through the process, I've said, I'm sorry, Doobie, you may not have been watching
You
earlier,
said they had
but
lied to the cops when I was
said-
here. You said you lied to the cops, so you don't have the gun anymore.
I
So
said
would
that's
you
what
or
a
would you
lot
not
of
turn your
people
car?
would do.
Would you?
I
do
said
it?
that's what a
Would
lot
you
of
turn
people
over your
would
guns
do.
or not?
I said people would say
Would you
X,
turn
but
over your guns or not?
if they did it in a constitutional manner, I don't think I have a choice. As somebody who lives in America, I would have to move somewhere that allowed me to, keep.
You'd
my,
move out of the
keep my
country to
firearms.
keep your fucking toys?
Yeah, if the United States became so like our cultural ethos degraded so far that the Second Amendment was no longer a part of them and the right to keep and bear arms, yeah, I would find it. I'd probably move somewhere that allowed me to keep them.
Okay,
I
so
think
here's
you
what
keep
Doobie's
going
gonna
with that.
say. Here's what Doobie's gonna say. He's gonna say, "Wow, is that your only attachment to this country?" Because that's
I
funny
was gonna
because
say
Yeah,
that, actually.
exactly.
there's a
Yeah,
lot of
that's what I was
people
gonna
that have a
say.
lot of rights taken away
That's
right
not
now.
what
but,
he
like,
said.
That's not what I said.
It's not
Hold
what he
on.
said at all.
I said if our culture or the American ethos had evolved from its initial state so much, that would involve a lot of other things. You'd have to start doing a lot of other things before you just fucking somehow constitutionally ban firearms in the United States. It's so ludicrous that we didn't even think about it as an idea until you hopped
You guys
in
were in here
Doobie,
talking
like
about a
an hour and
fascist
30 minutes.
dictator rising up and overthrowing the
wasn't
government out
trying to.
overnight. And this is fucking ludicrous to you? Come on. No, please.
No, we're
be
having
honest
a
with
different
me. Be
conversation.
honest with me.
No, we're having a
One
different
second.
conversation,
Please,
Doobie.
I want you to
Sorry.
fully bake your take right now, okay? So, if
Let's do it.
all we did, right, was remove gun rights, right, and say, hey, half-baked, you can no longer have firearms in the United States, you turn them over then, right? If that was all that happened.
Yo, Pixie, thank you for the raid. Bake your take. Pixie, hey gang, we're having an interesting discussion here. We're talking about the Second Amendment and whether or not it would be sufficient to stop a tyrannical government. We're also getting a little, here and there into, is the Second Amendment important? Should we even have it? But mostly, I'm trying to keep us on that first bit.
Yeah, fuck you, Pixie. I'm joking.
Welcome. I heard you got again. You should just stop reading all your chats, to be clear. Yeah, don't trust your chatters. They're lesser. Ignore them.
Hey, it's baked. Please. That's all we've done. You know, you can no longer have guns. Everything else is the same. What do you say?
Doobie. Like this document.
Just answer the fucking question.
It's pretty fucking solid, and it's maintained. It's
The
like
Constitution has changed dozens of times over the centuries.
No, the answer is no.
Yeah, so you would leave the country,
It has not devolved
right?
much from its initial ethos, and what I said was,
Okay,
if
Mr.
it
Take,
did,
you would leave the
that
country
would,
then. If
yeah,
all
in
we
that
did,
situation,
if
I would.
all we did was remove gun
Wait,
rights,
no. If
you would
they
leave the
just
country.
remove gun rights, no. If that
What-
somehow
I just have so much
magically
trouble answering
happened,
that question.
if that somehow magically happened, no, I wouldn't.
And you would turn over your guns at that point, right?
If tomorrow, constitutionally, you as an American could not, it just repeals the Second Amendment.
Yeah.
Repeals it. We just
Democratically,
repeal the Second
they went
Amendment.
through the whole thing.
Yeah,
do you turn over all your guns?
Yes, I have to turn over all my
Okay,
guns.
beautiful.
No, but yeah. My answer is no. Okay, my guns are not
And then
only
I move.
no. My guns are not
Okay.
only an extension of myself; they're also an extension of my manhood. And I'm not
Okay.
going to like
That's the
to
problem.
forcibly
Hold on, wait,
feminize
wait.
myself
I would like
under
to.
your
Okay.
tyrannical
I'm
Hitlerian
gonna let him
bullshit.
finish. I'm gonna let him
Out loud.
finish. I'm gonna let him finish. But I would like to
Yeah,
answer.
Lactoid, finish your
so-
rant and then Paradigm.
Yeah, finish your rant. Yeah.
I'm just saying, if the government passes a law that says we're gonna like infringe on your foundational rights, we're gonna fuck you up, we're gonna come take your shit, that's critically important
Like
So to some extent, there's a reason why I want to like get rid of taxes now.
People, they try to take your taxes.
Don't distract him. Doobie, stop distracting him. I want to hear, right, in your rant
No,
somehow,
you gotta.
before you finish, and then we're
Afraid
going to
of
let
what he's gonna
Paradigm
do.
go. But I want you to answer this. How is having a gun an extension of your manhood? And if I didn't
It's
own a
how
gun-
you project power, right?
Okay.
No one can come to my house and like fuck with me. No one can come attack me if someone tries to come stab me, right?
You're
Like
not trolling. Lactoid, you're not trolling, right?
He knows.
I am dead. Okay, hold on.
Okay,
So,
enough.
I am.
Lactoid is being
You're a
honest.
strong.
I'm dead serious. Look, when I swore an oath as an attorney to the Constitution, okay, it was to the Constitution in its current shape. If they removed the First and Second Amendments, if they removed other amendments, and we turned into like some Hitlerian hellhole, no, I wouldn't respect that.
But- In its current state, dude.
Would
In its
do
current
everything in my
state, the
power to
Constitution allows itself to be changed, right?
Right. And so if it
But-
changed on like critical elements that I think are like foundational to freedom, if
Okay.
it changed in the Bill of
I wanna-
Rights to a beyond a
I got
point,
you.
It's a
I'm
different
saying fuck
country.
it. It's a different country at that
I want
point.
to hear from
Different
Paradigm.
country.
I want to
It's
hear
a
from
different
Paradigm. Go ahead, Paradigm. You said you wanted to go at him. Go at him.
Yes. I can you hear me? Yes,
Yes,
you can
sir.
hear me. Okay. I'm a big fan of like when I participate on these panels, like listening. I don't got no games on in the background. It's just got faces. It get weird after a bit, but I use my ADHD. I flick around. But one thing that I really do good at is memory retention. I don't know why. Maybe it's trauma. It's something I got to work out. But it's like I'm really good at hearing things. You both have conditions that are tied to the Second Amendment and your understanding of the principle of yourselves, that if it were to be gone, it would cause significant harm to your personhood, correct? Is that correct?
Yes.
It would. Okay.
It would violate my rights.
Personhood.
Okay.
Yeah. I guess.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
I think of
yeah,
it as an unalienable right. So yes.
So you said and this is what you said. Now I'm going to hone in here. Todd, you said that if society degraded long enough that this was the point that it would be at. What
I guess.
type of system would you have to live in for America to degrade far enough that we would get to that point? What is the term for that? The erosion, the degradation, like the erosion of
hold
rights.
On. You keep.
That delay is killing me, bro.
He's bacon.
Bad. He's bacon.
My bad, dog. I can
I'm
pop
getting
out.
baked.
I do apologize, but I really don't have anything I can do at the moment. I could pop out and try.
The audio is
back in,
fine.
but-
Just
Sounds
answer the
beautiful.
question, please. Go ahead.
Jesus Christ. Can you reword it? My bad, dude.
Like,
You got
what
me
would it take for
fucking-
the-
Now I'm looking at.
What's the society that you would be building after this? Like, if this would actually get to a critical case?
I don't
The
think that was
question
the
we're all
question.
kind
hold
of
on.
dancing
No,
around
that wasn't
is
the question. The question, as
Sorry,
I
excuse
understood it, in Paradigm, please, you're here, so you could just correct me if I'm wrong. But is what kind of system would have to be in place for things to disgrade? For example, what sort of institutional things would have to happen? What sort of politics would have to be put into play? What sort of steps would the government have to take, etc.?
That is 100% correct.
Thank you.
I just the amount that would have to change and to it would just be like a crazy. I just think it's way bigger than just what Doobie put as the hypothetical, where it's just like, okay, overnight guns are gone. I'm sorry. Wait, what?
No, I'm rooting for you. You keep going. Just like you're describing something, and I want you to. I wonder if you know what you're describing.
I think you guys are misunderstanding what America is. Like, there's these ethos that these documents are built on that I identify with, and if somehow, I don't want to say degradation, and you keep saying like like it's more of like that would be an evolution in America's history, but I think it would become America wouldn't be what I identify with. I would do everything in my fucking power to fight to keep these ethos as core to our principles as possible. But the moment that that's gone, we're not talking about the same America that, I signed a fucking document and put my right hand up for and thought a lot of times like, hey, dude, you might have to go and take a fucking bullet for X. Like, I joined during the Afghanistan war. Like,
I get what you're
dude,
saying.
Brainwash the fuck out of you.
What?
I get what you're saying. I want to any response to that.
I wouldn't say so, but
from anyone else, first of all.
I would like to try to steelman that, I guess.
No, we have enough Steelman. He's here to Steelman. He can Steelman himself. Lactoid's his friend.
Himself. I like the idea that America is this culture that has a certain level of self-reliance of trying to evolve itself, but I just don't see that it's going to be moving in the same direction. I just don't think that there's going to be a unifying culture. If it does get to a critical point, the 2A community will form its own little community.
You would need a mass unification to get a constitutional amendment.
Yeah, I want to to a question of the people who think this is crazy.
How hard it is to fucking get a constitutional amendment?
Right. The question to the people who think this is crazy, right? Yeah, I think it's perfect. If the Second Amendment goes away, this is not the America that we currently have loyalty to. In the same way that if the 13th Amendment went away, I think a lot of you would also be kind of fucking mad and wouldn't have loyalty to the country if they went that far. Because now not only is the 13th Amendment gone, but we live in a culture that got rid of it. And if we live in a culture that got rid of it, fuck the culture.
Wick, Doobie, one of y'all take that one. That's. I'm sorry, and I know there's an entertainment factor to this. Wick trying to get subs, which you should sub, because these shows don't fucking exist no more. So whatever, man. Like, you do your thing. You do you, right? We ain't here for the bullshit.
I'm being dead serious.
I don't want to. The reason why I want them to answer that is because, and I'm being just straight up honest with you, real, like, man to man, if we was face to face, I say this to you, that's too easy. It's too easy.
You think
the response to that is like
that if I lost the First Amendment and the Second Amendment and the Fourth Amendment and the fucking 13th Amendment, you don't think it would be fucking too easy? Or okay, I'll remove the 13th. I'll take the 13th away. But you take those three away just for like that specific thing, yeah. And then I think everybody would be under the same assumption. If the 13th Amendment was repealed, we'd all probably not find allegiance.
I'm gonna just say what's on everybody's mind, because Doobie want to say it. I guess that's kind of his your shtick. But why you keep bringing up the 13th Amendment? That's really like I'm wondering.
Because that's an amendment that you fucking liberals.
It's why he went to the cops shooting down a bunch of black people random earlier. He's just
It's
trying to.
fine.
I
Try
brought up
to-
Koreans in the LA riot. Okay,
I
this is
wasn't
no.
talking about you.
How is
Okay,
it wrong to try
well,
to
I was the one that brought up the
identify
13th Amendment.
and try to
Yeah, well,
relate
that time wasn't you.
a
Okay.
point to somebody?
Okay.
Hold on, Paradigm. Do you think I'm doing that in a malicious or
No,
Like,
it's a funny
wait, hold on.
coincidence. And that's
No.
not, you're taking it too far. You're thinking too deep. You're thinking too deep. It's for the clip. It's for the clip, bro.
No.
It's for the clip. That's it.
No,
Nobody
but
thinks
man,
I'm
come
serious
on.
about
I told you I
that.
don't
It's
give
a
a fuck about this,
reasonable.
and you're gonna body me like that?
I said it was too easy.
Bodying.
Did I
Oh,
not say
shit.
that?
Look, I wasn't gonna
Did
go
I-
there.
You've been
Right.
bodied.
Right. I didn't. I'm messing with you. We're being boys. We're being funny.
I think
Like,
you're a little bit
relax.
racist, but you're white, so it's expected.
So
I-
I want to engage with the point though. That
Yes,
that
please.
Lightfoot made,
Can we go back
right?
to it?
We can see that like there are certain amendments, right, that don't affect me. They don't have really a lot, and so if they went away, okay, right, like
Yeah.
fair. To you, the Second Amendment is very important, but to me and to millions of other Americans, it might not be that important. Now, to be clear, I like the Second Amendment. Guns are fun. They're a fun toy to have, right? I enjoy going to the shooting range or going into the my rural backyard and shooting at bottles, right? Pow, pow, pow. It's fun, right? But I would not give up my citizenship. I would not forsake my country if, through democratic means, the country decided that they were going to adjust, repeal, or replace this amendment.
What about the 13th? What about
Right?
the 13th Amendment? Would you do that?
If there was
Even though it wouldn't affect you that much, right? But let's say they repealed the 13th Amendment.
No, I
Amendment,
understand.
Right?
That's a fundamentally different thing. I think these are fundamentally different things. Not every amendment is built the same.
I agree with that.
And so, like I said, you,
Very true.
I understand that to you, the Second Amendment is like guns are kind of like an extension of your penis, right? But for me, it's just not the case, right? I got enough guns. You know how I'm
We just
built.
use guns to
natural,
hide up.
so.
Sure.
Having the ability to defend myself, my family, and my country against a tyrannical government are all, I guess that's a part.
That's what I meant by manhood, by the way. That's what I meant by that.
By manhood, Wick, then I guess
The
sure,
Second Amendment
I'll fucking
won't
whip
do
that
This
dick
is the
out
argument.
and slap
This
it
is the
on the
argument we're
table.
having, Todd.
Yes.
This is the argument we're having. My point here, right, is that the Second Amendment is not sufficient. It would not stop a tyrannical government. They would destroy you.
You need so much more. You need
I'll point you to a
resistance.
dozen examples. I just also linked a bunch of shit in the chat that talks about how the American military is not necessarily just, logistically ready, but even like ideologically ready to fight this war. And they're from super duper right wing outlets like Vox and foreignpolicy.com. So I mean those super big fucking right wing militia types.
One of the writers is Stephen Marsh. That is one of my sources. It's a left-wing Canadian writer who wrote The Next Civil War, and he would say that, like, the American military has overwhelming power and influence and would absolutely be able to take this apart. But the problem is still going to end up being like power lines, like who's the civilian in charge of the military. And that's probably like the best case argument I can see for this. Generally, the US, you need more than just the Second Amendment. You need a culture of resistance that's built off of a community that has shared values. And Second Amendment is a very thin pool to draw from for a lot of people.
I want to give a chance to Lactoid, but also Doobie wanted to say something. So go ahead, Lactoid, real quick, and then I want to get to Doobie.
Well, I just need to say I have to jump off for I got another show coming up.
Oh, I lost track.
Actually,
of
I do too.
Okay,
yeah,
well, in that case, thanks for coming. This has been a very heated debate. It's been very interesting discussion. I want to thank all my guests for appearing. Doobie, thanks for being willing to jump in and allowing me to exploit you for gifts, gift subs and bits and super chats. That was based of you. Gang, what do we got coming up? And then I'll give all these people a brief. We'll start with you two, right? We'll start with Lactoid. So Tuesday's a call-in show. Wednesday, we're gonna have 𝕻, we're going to have Kidology, we're going to have 𝕵𝖎𝖎𝖙, and a bunch of others. We're going to be talking about sensitivity readers, okay, and how they're making massive amounts of changes to works such as Willy Wonka, James and the Giant Peach, The Witches, and a bunch of his books. And is that censorship? Should that be allowed? What should we do about it? Is it good? Is it bad? Is it neutral? Let's talk about it. But Lactoid, go ahead. Give me your thoughts.
Yeah. No, thank you so much for inviting me. Thank you for the whole panel. Great talk. You can find me at Lactoid TV on Twitch and YouTube and Twitter. Thanks.
All right, thanks. And gang, we're not ending after this. We're just moving to the next section, to the open section. Doobie, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I'm coming for your guns. Okay, I'm gonna vote for everybody who wants to take your guns away forever. That's it.
Paradigm, go ahead.
Bye-bye,
What's your
everybody.
thoughts here?
This was fun. I thought it wasn't gonna be. I thought it was gonna be kind of boring, but y'all put a smile on my face, a genuine smile on my face, and that don't happen too often. So appreciate you for that. Thank you for hosting me, and I hope to be back on one day.
Oh wow, Discord just went weird. But yeah, no, yeah, sure. Again, we're always looking for new voices. We're always looking for different people to come on and give their takes. I try to make balanced panels. Don't always succeed, but I do my best. So thank you again for coming. Where can people find you?
Twitch.tv/the_paradigm_shift. Please let Twitch know to give me back my username. I hate the underscores.
Man, I started typing out _. God damn it. Okay, hold on. I'm trying to shout you out. Okay, I think I got it right. I hope I got it right. And there we go. Next up, we have 𝕵𝖎𝖎𝖙.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me on the panel. This was a lot of fun. It was great to talk to everybody. I'll be back on for the xenogender debate, I think, a little bit later this week. Should
Thursday,
be
yeah.
interesting. I'll be speaking from the perspective of an educator. And yeah, you can catch me twitch.tv/𝕵𝖎𝖎𝖙, slam poet, musician. And yeah, we talk politics, talk culture, do cool stuff. But this was fun. It's nice to hear from some conservatives.
Well, yeah, thank you for being here. And yeah, so on Thursday, Johnny Scarlett, they put together a panel for me. And they were like, hey, do you mind hosting this panel? I was like, okay. Yeah, if they want to do the work for me, I'll let them do it any time of the day. So I appreciate that. But yeah, we'll see you then. Gang, I shouted him out in chat. Go click on his link and give him a follow. Last but certainly not least, Todd from 𝕬𝖎𝖎𝖙 Takes. Where can people find you, and what are your closing thoughts?
Oh shit. I don't know when I'll be streaming again, but Todd from 𝕬𝖎𝖙 Takes on just about everything. On Twitter, it's Todd from HBT. Everybody, thank you. Appreciate it. I love just talking and hearing people's perspective on shit. So, Wick, thank you for having me get on the platform and being able to hash through a conversation that I felt was slightly more nuanced than a Twitter thread allowed for. So, do it again.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. Now, again, any of you can leave if you need to, but we have a few caller inners that want to call in, so we're going to stay and take.
I just want to say thanks to Todd. Like we had this discussion and it was nice to have the back and forth and like see that there is something to be talked about here. I think it's a topic that a lot of people are discussing, and it's interesting to see, how different people envision power in society. Yeah.
Cool. Okay, well, this was a feel-good ending, gang. We all hugged it out, and we're all happy campers. Yeah, I don't know. I just think that people like look to these historical examples and try to map them on to something that it does not map onto. We said, oh, well, this is what happened back then or in these different situations. But when you try to map it onto the situation that you're trying to describe, I don't think it fits. I think that it's creating this kind of dissonance where we're not getting to what would most realistically happen. Now, I'm not a prognosticator. I do not know the future. It's very possible that it would be handled very poorly by the leadership, and that yes, the Second Amendment would be effective, but that would require multiple points of failure in both the infrastructure, institutional and military operations, right? That I just, again, realistically, I do not see happening. Let's bring on some of the other callers since you guys were kind enough to stay.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hello there.
Oh, and before we go, if you want to call in, gang, you can. I'm going to put the Discord link in chat and also on the YouTube, and you can call in and you can talk. We're not going to do this long, okay? Maybe another 30 minutes or so, but I want to give everyone a chance to hop in. Unless I get a lot more money, in case we might extend it. Anyway, carry on. Go ahead.
Well, the good person left, Lactoid, the only person with like a logical take on this. But I want to say this whole thing about people just breaking down and taking people's guns, I don't see that way it happening. I think COVID was the best test case to see that people are not going to revolt when their rights are blatantly taken away. Like all the constitutional violations that happened during COVID and the reasoning of, well, for your safety, and people just complied with it. And I see the same thing happening with the guns rights. And I think that they would issue some like decree that says, hey, you have 2-3 months to turn your gun in. And once you turn your gun in, you'll get like a digital token or something that's scannable on your phone. And after those 2-3 months, if you don't have that token, you can't go to stores, you can't go out in the service. And if you're out in public and you get your police ask you to see your phone and you're scanned and you haven't turned in your guns, then you go to jail. I see something like that. And then after that's been in place for like a year and a half, you know, the 500, couple thousand people that haven't turned their guns in, then you go and take their guns, and you're doing it for public safety.
Okay, just real quick, if you have cameras, please turn them on. But
Can I get 2 things to that or no?
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So
I would turn my camera
one,
on.
I don't understand. What was I was on the same side as Lactoid, so I'd love to understand where I was coming at this conversation illogically. But to your point, how are you going to talk to like if anybody shit about like crazy hypotheticals or kind of like weird like situations? Like you're talking about like a pretty
we saw it during COVID.
Giant step towards tyranny. No,
we saw it during COVID. We
people
told people you can't
got
go
fed up. Real quick, people got fed up.
When did people take up arms against the government during COVID?
Okay, nobody took up arms, but there were.
They didn't have to. Nobody was trying to take their guns. There weren't fights in the streets.
The constitutional violation. No, this whole thing was about constitutional values. So people not being able to go outside, people not being able to go to churches, not being able to go to schools, parks. Those aren't constitutional violations.
They were, and that's
okay. So why did people take up arms?
And we, What do you mean? We didn't have to. We just had to start going outside and shit.
People did it.
We just had to start opening up
people
businesses.
didn't until the government said that they could.
Yes, people did go outside. Yes, people didn't wear fucking masks.
I was DoorDash driving.
There was plenty of people that were out there that were continuously just working their jobs and doing whatever the fuck they want. Like the initial first 2 weeks. Because everybody was like, oh, okay, maybe this shit's like actually really fucking serious and this, that, and the other thing. But then you just started a mass amount of people just being like, fuck it, I don't give a fuck. Like, let me just get out there and do whatever the fuck I want.
So were you one of those baby back bitches that just sat in their house and did whatever the government told them every single time?
No, I didn't.
Oh, okay. So you did rebel against the government then?
Again, like I said, people didn't take up arms to defend their rights.
They didn't have to. Okay, they didn't have to. They rebelled against the government in 1,000 other ways, in ways that weren't going to get them killed.
Be clear, the local governments didn't enforce them, and in fact, the local governments in fact encouraged in many cases.
Yep, exactly. Okay,
well, and it should be a proportional response.
Just real quick, they were being cucks to the local government. It's just a different.
It should be a proportional response, though, right?
Nice.
It should be a proportional response. Like they say, hey, we're gonna do a lockdown. Your response isn't to like pull out your AR-15 and like start fucking shooting people. It's like, okay, well, we'll escalate it depending on like what the pushback is gonna be. Yeah. Because if it was a situation where they were like locking us in our houses and shit, like
what if it was China?
You don't think people would start and go ask?
No. Hey, hold on. I'm on your side. I'm saying if they would have started doing shit like China did, people probably would have handled it differently than they did.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. I'm arguing against you because you're saying that there was no like uprising. There was no like nobody pulled out their guns and started like shooting cops and shit. Like nobody was doing that because that wasn't a proportional response to what was happening. Because you could just go outside. They would say,
be weird.
And come into Walmart. That was it.
Am I having a disconnect?
What do you mean that was it? You can't go shopping at a store? Like,
yeah, they're like, oh, you can come
this
into
is what
Walmart
I
if you're
mean. This is
not
what
if you're
I'm
not
talking about.
vaccinated. Yeah, you can order it online. You can go on Amazon and you can order your groceries or whatever. It's like, oh, you don't have your vaccine or you're not going to wear a mask. Sorry, you can't come into this restaurant or this store or whatever. That was it. If it was like we're locking you in your house or we're going to arrest you because you're here at the store without your mask on, or we're going to arrest you for this or that or the other thing or whatever, that would be a different.
Wait, but
like that would demand a different response.
I just gave. Like,
no, it's not.
No, it wasn't.
It absolutely was not. But hold on, really quick. I'm sorry. Who is? Okay, goddamn it, Malcolm.
Yes, sir.
You weren't fighting against my point. You were.
No,
exactly,
I'm clarifying. I'm clarifying.
Okay.
But the point was made by Lime, by the way. It wasn't made by half-baked takes.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure. That's what I was saying. I was just making sure that I wasn't. I'm not saying that there should have been people out shooting fucking people over the COVID restrictions. I'm saying people had 1,000 other ways to rebel against the government, like going out without outside.
Oh, no, I agree with you. I was just clarifying.
You know,
I got you.
I was DoorDash driving,
Okay.
I think in the same week that the pandemic started. So it's like, you can go out and fucking, what are you talking about? Stop comparing this to COVID. It's a weak argument.
I want to get a clarification on a take that Wick you were stating, right? So you were saying that because you think people won't go out and defend, and and that like for some reason that because a mass portion of the population wouldn't take up arms if somebody like tried to take guns or whatever it is, that is that like, are you trying to say that's why we should take away the guns or some shit? Like,
no, I'm not saying we should take away the guns. My argument is that the Second Amendment is insufficient to defend against a tyrannical government, specifically the U.S. tyrannical government. The U.S. military would take apart any rebellion that occurred.
Are you aware that the U.S. military members, the military members, they do have the capability of refusing orders if they find them unjust or
unconstitutional.
Damn straight.
If they're unconstitutional, they have a duty to.
With that, because again, they would be attacking their own homes. I don't think military members would want to attack their own homes.
What would happen?
Why would the military send them to their own homes? They would send them to other.
Yeah, they wouldn't have the military members.
She's saying
Washington.
She's saying like she's saying Americans. Saying Americans
as own homes, as in America is our home.
Yes,
why would we want to attack America?
All Americans.
I'm not literally.
Okay.
Literally no way.
You're literally
stop. Everyone shut up
just,
but Millie.
Like,
Millie, finish your point, then I'll respond. Go ahead,
my fucking God. Okay. Anyways, besides the dude literally taking that out of like fucking left field and like not understanding what I was fucking saying. Anyways, what I'm saying is military members would not want to come to America and attack and bombard. And they would I can guarantee you, because I've spoken to many military members, they would not want to come and attack other military members' families or their own families for any of that matter. And they would just look at the officer or whoever it is that's above them, the chief, the sergeant, whatever the fuck it is, and they'd look at him and be like, no, fuck you, I'm not obeying that. I wouldn't attack. So if you have no military to attack, then what are you going to do at that point?
Let me explain I explained this earlier on the panel. Maybe you weren't here for it, and that's okay. But this is how it most realistically would go down. First of all, they wouldn't be saying, hey, go kick down these innocent civilians' door and go attack your families. No, they would label these people as a terrorist. And the military is more than willing to go and kill the fuck out of terrorists. They've done so all the time, even domestic terrorists, right? They are more than willing to go in there. Now, obviously, they wouldn't bring people who are close to whoever is being attacked. The uprising wouldn't happen all at once. The uprising, if it does occur, would happen in bits and places while it tried to get enough momentum to become a mass uprising. And that's
Americans
and that's where
and foreign combatants. There's no difference between those two things. Americans and foreign combatants. Those two are equal level.
No, a terrorist, whether it be a terrorist that is considered a threat, I guarantee you, the military would respond. Right, the military, they wouldn't be told, right? They would be what would happen is they'd say, "Hey, this terrorist is diddling kids."
You don't think the military does debriefings and shit like that?
Dude, come on! I know you.
That is not how
you know that's
bullshit.
Handled.
That is not
you
true.
were in the military. You know that's bullshit. You know that's not how fucking military operations are handled.
No, but see, I don't give people that much credit. Like we see this with the police. Like if someone issues a warrant and says, "Hey, we need to go arrest this person,"
there must be a
they're
reason.
going to go do it. So if the military comes and says, "Hey, we need to go and seize this person's assets in this house," they're going to do it.
Why are they terrorists? Why are they terrorists?
No one's going to ask that question.
Okay, I'm not.
Nobody would ask that question.
Not on the ops.
Are you serious? Are you serious?
I don't
Nobody
think they have to be
would
labeled
ask
terrorists.
that question.
Like they were going to take their orders and do it.
Even if
they didn't ask that question in Abu
Ghraib, would have an answer, and they would have the information that they falsified to back it up. There would be documents. There would be evidence planted. There would be absolutely.
But you don't get all that stuff at the ground. No, at the ground level, you don't get to ask those questions.
And how does Gitmo exist?
Yeah. People still believe that Waco and Ruby Ridge were totally unjustified fucking just the military coming and just being a tyrannical force. And you're going to tell me that full-scale combat, as they're taking the fucking Second Amendment away, wouldn't be treated with the same level of skepticism, and people wouldn't fucking
it's not going to be full-scale
go to the
combat.
news?
Like, I don't understand why you're jumping this.
When when I have to come into a house and clear a fucking house for I don't know how many people are in there, and I don't know how many guns are in there. You're telling me that there aren't going to be instances where people get fucking popped?
Yes, there are going to be instances, but it's not going to be full-scale combat.
Dude, we saw a summer of riots over fucking police kicking in the door of Breonna Taylor.
Did the police how did the police respond to that? Did they refuse to go out and subdue the rioters?
No, but I'm sorry, Millie, that was your point, but I do agree that Wick, you even admitted there would be a portion of the United States military that would disobey,
But you kind of just disproved your argument. You just said that the police went into Breonna Taylor's house. Like, that's what I'm saying. They're going to take the orders.
I said there was an uproar over that, and people questioned it.
That's not the point.
That's what I said. That's what I said.
People questioning is different. What I'm saying is the police,
that's what
the
I'm
military,
talking about.
they're going to take the orders.
That's what me and Wick are talking about. So no.
No, this is what you were talking about.
We're talking about the information. We're talking about.
If the government decided to come and take fucking guns, you're talking about 40% of the adult population in the United States. 40 fucking percent. Okay, you don't think that 40 fucking percent wouldn't reach out and say, "Yo, like this is fucking wrong." You don't think there would be an uproar with those people and be like, "You're not fucking taking my guns." You don't think they wouldn't want to do something about it and say, "No, fuck you. You can go die. You can go whatever."
Well, and if we're being totally real, too, most of those people,
that's their pull the trigger against the police.
That's like their wet dream, dude. That's like what most of these people hoard guns for.
Yeah,
they're like waiting. They're waiting for the Civil War.
I asked the other people directly. I asked Lactoid. I asked Todd. Miss Millie, I'll ask you directly. If the government made it illegal for you to own guns, and then they came to collect your guns, would that be enough for you to rise up and fight the U.S. government? Would you personally rise up because they decided to make your guns illegal? I do not believe you.
Absolutely no. You cannot. But you don't know. You don't.
I don't know.
Apparently, you don't know me well enough.
Maybe I'm wrong.
Then at that point, you are wrong. I would absolutely take up. I have more at stake than just my own life. There are my children's life. There's my husband's life. I will absolutely fight for them.
To keep your gun. To keep your handgun. You would put your family's life at risk to keep your handgun.
Become a terrorist? Man, that's high stakes.
I mean, if that's what you're saying.
You can hang on one second, baby. You can label me as a terrorist.
I wouldn't.
The government would.
I'm saying. Okay, they can label me as a terrorist, but words are just fucking words then. Okay? They can label me whatever they want. I'm still going to protect my right, and they have no right to take it away from me.
But the government would. No, you don't. I want to respond to this because words aren't just fucking words. Once you are labeled by the U.S. government as a domestic
labels
terrorist,
are just labels. I know what I'm defending, and I know what my rights are.
What would happen was once they labeled you a domestic terrorist, they would have justification to come in and do what they needed to do to stop you from hurting yourself or others. And we've seen this happen in small scale and large scale. This isn't the first time, right, that someone has risen up against the federal government. Look at Waco, right? Look at these other institutions.
I understand
right?
They may label me and whatever, but I know what I'm fighting for. I know what's right.
I understand, but if your point was the military wouldn't join in on this, I'm telling you how they have and they would. Right?
Can I ask a real quick question?
Go ahead.
How would you fight this? Like, would you join a militia? Would you take your family and hole up somewhere? Like, what is, when you say fighting, there's no legal avenue to do so. So like, what does that kind of look like for you defending your rights once you
warfare
this way,
like Ukraine?
I mean, if
is it guerrilla warfare?
If they came to my house and said, "Hey, give me your gun right now," we'll send you a check in the mail. No, I wouldn't start blasting. I'd tell them no and slam the door in their face. And then if they escalated the situation, then I'd also come in with the appropriate escalation.
So I only had. Sorry to. No, that's fair enough. That's an answer. I had one thing to add to this, and then I'm more than happy to shut up. I think these comparisons to Vietnam and Afghanistan about guerrilla warfare were just fucking horrible. Like just to lay it out real quick. Google Maps is a thing, so they know the fucking layout of every single street. The telecoms and banking systems would all be backed by the U.S. government, or they would all be on their side. So you all of a sudden your communication is limited. You have no finances to fund yourself. And I think, as Doobie had mentioned, if these militias form, they're gonna target the leaders. They're gonna cut off the head, and it's gonna be this disorganization down the line.
Wouldn't be cohesive. Wouldn't be this big cohesive thing that would have just like there would be, I'm sure, some leadership structure to it, but a lot of this fighting would be regionalized. Like this, it wouldn't even necessarily need to be a fucking full scale like Viet Cong style like rise up. It could fucking be pockets of resistance all over this massive fucking country that would be a absolute logistical nightmare to try to, I don't know, have supply chains to get your fucking support troops to your infantry troops so you can even do the fucking shit that you're talking about. So it's not just as simple as like the United States has fucking better tech. Yeah, I understand that, but there are fucking a great deal of there's a great deal of advantage to being a fucking
not just better tech. We keep saying this. It's better. It's better organization. It is better tech, better intelligence, better organization, better industrial base. Right? Like you would run out of ammo. Right? The rebels would run out of ammo
in a year.
Right? Before the military ever did.
From
anybody that's willing to sell it to the enemies of the whatever that enemy new state is. We could probably end up fucking buying enough ammo from China to fucking last an entire I don't know 5-6 years of war.
Okay, okay. So like I'm just curious. These people who own guns right now are so concerned about defending their constitutional rights. If the police showed up to your house right now without a search warrant and wanted to search your house, how many people are going to pull out their gun and shoot them to defend their constitutional rights?
What are they coming here for? What is that warrant for?
They don't
have a warrant.
Oh,
then I
tell them to leave. Yeah, they have no. I told them to leave, and if they don't leave,
they're not leaving.
Shut
they're
the door.
going to bust your door in.
Buddy, then I actually do have a constitutional right to fucking shoot them.
I have every right to defend my home.
I understand you say you have the right, but people.
Yes, if they're breaking down my home,
how do you think Breonna Taylor's boyfriend wasn't?
If they are breaking down my door and they have no legal right to come into my house, they have no fucking warrant. I have every legal right to fucking shoot them.
Pal.
I have every right
to
put a buck round in their chest.
Maybe I'm a wuss, but I'd lay down my guns and let them come in, and then I would go to court afterward and sue the pants off of them for violating my rights.
Exactly. Hold on, that's buddy. Somebody. That's why I asked, what is this warrant for? Because in this hypothetical,
they don't have a warrant.
Hold on, you fucking Jesus fucking Christ!
You keep asking what is this warrant for, and they don't have a warrant. So obviously, you don't understand it. You keep asking what is this warrant for,
dude. And we told you if they don't have a warrant, we have a constitutional right to defend ourselves and shoot that fucking whoever's bringing that warrant.
But you are
not. I promise you.
Hold on. I'm trying to advance a conversation past your fucking pea-sized mind, and let's expand the conversation. And guess what? If there is a warrant, then it had to be for fucking, I don't know, the removal of somebody's gun rights just for having a gun. Yeah, then people would fucking fight that.
Todd, I promise you, if a cop decides to search your house without a warrant, yes, you can sue them. Yes, it's illegal, but that does not give you the right to shoot them. In almost every state I can think of.
If they enter my home without a warrant and without a justified reason, I have the right to defend myself.
Only if they attack you. If they do not attack you,
that's what you're talking about.
No,
they can't enter the home. They can't constitutionally enter the home.
I understand it would be illegal, but it would also like it's okay.
Why are you arguing?
Not everything that people do to you that like so. If someone went and they pickpocketed my wallet, that's illegal, right? And then I shot him with 20 rounds.
Oh my God, that's not what we're talking about.
Right?
Obviously,
you have a right.
There's an escalation to situations. You're literally saying, okay, just because we have a gun and someone does a minor fucking infraction on us, then all of a sudden we're all going to pull out our fucking guns and shoot them down dead. That's not.
Let me try to de-escalate this for a quick second. The hypothetical that is being proposed is that police officers are coming into your house without a warrant at all. And the question is, if they try to come into your house without a warrant, are you going to choose to fight them to the death and therefore put your life on the line? Or are you going to acquiesce to their warrant and then get a lawyer and sue the fuck out of them?
I would probably do this latter.
Yes,
I would absolutely
I would absolutely
do the latter in that situation. Yes, obviously.
I'm glad. I don't want you to die.
No, I know. Of course. I'm not an idiot.
But if someone comes into the house and starts attacking me, I'm going to defend myself.
No.
Really? I think the hardest part about
it.
Wait,
now both y'all are backtracking now. Like,
I've been saying it's the situation.
Neither one of us is backtracking. Nobody is backtracking. She's definitely not backtracking. And I'm just acquiescing to Buddy's point where it's like, what is the smarter thing to do? Okay, we can do that. But guess what? That's not what this conversation is, pal. We're talking about a hypothetical situation where a tyrannical government is doing tyrannical shit to take our guns away. What is your right? Your right is to fight back against that. That's it. And that fight that would happen would be too big and too fucking much for the U.S. military to
Is it a sin to be swayed? Is it a sin to be swayed in a debate? I hate to say it, but
welcome to Twitch.
Absolutely. You take L's if you get swayed.
No, you can be swayed. I encourage. If you
how do you take L's?
I want to say that Todd has a point in Half-Baked Pigs has a point in that a simple idea can communicate across a wide swath of political disagreements. And so even if it's a very simple thing, which is the government is illegitimate, which is an increasing sentiment amongst Americans, and therefore I have this right, then a simple message spreads very well. And if it spreads very well, then you can have a regimented militia, which still wouldn't stand a chance against the U.S. military. I'm not saying it would, but at least it would show some sort of resistance, and that might lead to the other situation that Todd brought up, which is like the devolution where things just really spiral out of control. The falcon cannot hear the falconer, all that stuff.
Oh, you're quoting some William Bates now? Yates, sorry. Look, I can imagine scenarios, right? I can imagine scenarios where many people rise up, right? Where this becomes a problem, okay? But in every case, unless the government fucks up, which it's more than capable of doing, I'm not saying it won't, right? The government is more than capable of fucking up. The military is more than capable of fucking up. But with any reasonable degree of competence, they're just 2A people got no shot. There's no shot. There's no chance in hell that they would be successful. Whether they're morally right or not does not fucking matter. The argument is, would it be successful? And no shot, right? As long as the government and the military were anywhere competent at this, and again, I'm not saying they would be, but I'm saying if they even a minimum level of competence, it just won't work.
Can you admit it'd be horribly messy, Wick?
Oh yeah, it would be a problem, okay? But it wouldn't be, the problems wouldn't be military. The problems would be how to deal with the after effects.
How long does this take?
It would make for a really good movie.
The removal of the Second Amendment and you getting rid of, starting to enforce this. How long do you think that process would take where you could completely get rid of all these militias and these people that are fighting back?
I could give you kind of an outline of what it would look like.
Please.
Well, hold on, Wick. I
don't know. It'd depend. It'd be contextual on.
You think it'd be a long time or a short time?
It depends. Are they all rising up at once?
It would probably be a long time,
tomorrow.
Right? So if something's messy for a long
it would be
time,
messy and take a long time. But if it was rising up over the course of 10 years, then I don't think it would ever meet that mass, right? I think it would just be a constant struggle, and yeah, it would take a long time, but that's only because they're going to be constantly doing this. It's maintenance at that point, right? But I want to hear from what's his face?
I don't know, what is his face?
Squirrel guy.
What is his
Oh,
face?
thank you. One of your mods just like don't even know my name. Thanks. No, okay.
Squirrel fella.
Yes, the squirrel with the nuts. So the easiest way would just be, okay, yeah, if you're kicking people's doors down and you're saying this is unconstitutional, I mean, yeah, if you go through the legislative route, so make it an optional buyback, which other countries have done. So right off the bat, you're getting hundreds of thousands of guns off the street. Tons of people would voluntarily surrender their arms and think they're doing their civic duty. And then from there, it's just a slow erosion, I think, as Wick was mentioning. So yeah, if it's done over the course of years and years, and if you go through this like legislative sort of process for it, the thing is, once you say you're going to fight back, like, again, the reason I brought up the thing about the whole, forget the whole guerrilla warfare. Let's just say like the machine. Let's say like social media and like the banking systems and just, whatever else is out there. Telecoms, for example, they're all going to have this campaign and paint these people as insane. And it's just going to take like a couple, whatever you call them, false flags. If somebody catches a stray bullet from one of these fucking militias, they're domestic terrorists, they're insane, and people crave safety. So they're not going to side with these insane fucking people just because they want to have their guns. So I'm just kind of just laying out of sort of what I see. And I agree with, I think it would be messy. I think there'd probably be these little enclaves.
Real quick, Larry talking, thank you for the gift sub, and I love you too. Carry on.
This would take an entire... Can I... Hang on. Oh, you're hopping out?
Yeah, I was just going to say bye. I'm sorry. My bad.
Oh, you're good.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, nice talking with you.
Bye.
Yeah, I think I'm going to head out too. This is my my cue. Bye, everyone.
Everybody just so quiet. Like, oh, bye.
Go ahead, Millie. The floor is yours. Millie, no one talking but Millie. Millie got the floor. Go ahead.
Yeah, all of y'all shut the fuck up. Anyways. So for all of this to happen, I think
are you talking right now?
Oh no!
Oh my god! Anyways, for any of this to fucking happen, we're having we would have to have a limit on all of the media. And let's be honest, there's far right media, there's far left media, there's things in between. So all of that would have to be completely regulated by the government, and any opposition would have to be squashed. In a sense, we're talking North Korea type gist, as well as also like saying that the whole buyback, the guns, demolishing of the Second Amendment would also have to that would have to be appealed. And we're talking about like that happening at some point. Like I find this really unrealistic of what we're talking about. I mean, we see that like the left and the right have such opposing views on these when it comes to gun rights and things of that nature, and it's been something that's been contested for a long time, and still really nothing's come of it of this buyback. So really don't see this happening anytime soon. So this is a really far hypothetical that we're discussing, and I don't really know if it has any point to the fact of should we keep our guns or fucking not, or should the Second Amendment still be a right or not.
Yeah, like in terms of practicality, yeah, this whole thing of like even like police kicking your door down to take your guns is like never gonna fucking happen in the U.S. But sorry, I'll let somebody.
Yeah, but I don't understand why we keep going to this kicking down the door thing. Like I said, I think they're going to put restrictions on you. Like you haven't turned in your guns, well, we're going to freeze your bank account. You haven't turned in your
whether
guns,
it's kicking doors down or not, or the buyback or the restriction. Like there are already restrictions on gun ownership and things of that nature. There's background checks. If you have a criminal record, you can't own a gun.
I'm talking about restricting your access to like public services, freezing your bank account. So that is going to weed out the other. Well, I'm saying of the people.
It's also an unrealistic hypothetical in this situation.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
If these people are breaking,
if we're going to see anything, we're going to see the California model where we restrict the guns that people have access to. We make it so that people can't purchase firearms. You make it more difficult for people to obtain ammunition. And then over the course of several generations and getting rid of grandfather policies and being able to inherit guns from people that have passed away and things like that, you're going to see over time an elimination of people actually owning guns to the point where it becomes irrelevant to say that you can't own guns anymore. You just can't buy them. We're never going to see the police come and kick your door down to take your guns away from you. They're just going to make it so you can't get any more.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They're just gonna make I would say a little bit farther that they would go to make your life, difficult.
They're not going to do that either, though. They're not going to say that if you own a gun, you can't get a bank account. That's never going to happen.
You say this, but they have frozen individual assets of individuals before, right? Like Vic Fuentes lost his ability to use PayPal.
I was
right?
going to bring that up. Yeah.
There's been all sorts of individuals, right? That many we don't know of, that the government and institutions that fall under that umbrella have used to just make it so, okay, well, you can't do transactions here anymore, and it has crippled their ability in a lot of ways.
This is talking.
They can do that with like domestic terrorists and stuff, but they wouldn't do that with an entire swath of the population. It's like 40% of adults own guns. Like, there's no way they would do that for that large of a demographic.
Those 40% aren't going to be the ones who are holding out. Those 40%, if this law passed, 90% of that 40% is going to turn their gun in. Like,
I think that you have a really out of touch of reality, like conception of people that own guns. Like, there's no fucking way that most people are going to just say, yeah,
I'm 100% not for the Second Amendment being taken away, but the idea that these people are going to be willing to take up arms against the government, 99% of people.
It's not black and white. This is the same thing that I said when you first came in at the very beginning. It's not black and white. It's like escalatory, right? And if there was a policy that was made that they were just going to start freezing people's bank accounts because they own guns, that would require like an additional layer of like, okay, well, we're going to resist it in this way and that way. It's not like they're going to say, okay, guys, we're going to institute a national gun buyback, and then everybody runs outside with their fucking guns and just starts shooting up police stations and
That's
shit.
not what I'm saying.
Obviously,
I'm saying
that
if
is what you're saying. You're painting it as black and white.
No, I'm saying if they
and
instituted that policy, that is going to make most of those people turn those guns in. I'm not saying
we're
really
fundamentally disagreeing with that.
Yeah, I don't think that most gun owners would like just give it away.
I think they're
Haven't they though in past
Stop, gang, stop. I want to give some of the newer people a chance. 𝕬𝖎, then Pickle. Go ahead.
Two things. One, who's actually going to be doing the bureaucracy to do all of these types of like freezing the assets of a large group of people because they're all, choosing to disobey this new government order? Because you have to imagine that inside of the bureaucracy that is also running all of these things are going to be people who can disobey with less like directly using their guns, and they have that backing because there are people with guns on both sides of the issue instead of only on one side of the issue. That like this is actually where the battle would be fought. It'd be a bunch of bureaucrats that are going to try and figure out, okay, how do we label like small slices of the population in ways to get people to be able to take guns from them and it not be like a massive flare up. But you have to imagine
it would be a fundamental change to our government as it is now, if it were to ever come to that.
Okay,
Isn't
so
the conservative argument that this is happening?
Know. Maybe you're unfamiliar, right? But they're already doing this, and the government is already working with bureaucrats within both banks and within social media companies and things like that in order to decide who can, like, they're creating these back doors so that they can, the government can contact them directly and get certain pieces of information. Right, so this is already being something that the government is putting the infrastructure in to do. This isn't entirely unrealistic.
I'm not saying it's unrealistic. I'm saying that's where the fight would be.
Oh, sure,
and that it would like.
But who was saying it would be a fundamental change? I'm talking to whoever said that, because it wouldn't. It would just be a mere iteration.
So getting what I'm saying is it would be a change of getting the Second Amendment abolished, and then this huge buyback happening. There would have to be some sort of fundamental change, because we know the right would push back against that.
Well, they wouldn't do that, right? They do slow incremental changes to legislation and existing laws, like what they're doing in places like New York and California, where there's legislation on the books restricting things like magazine size and stuff like that. So I don't see why you guys think it's not possible, but at the same time, it seems like you also, well, I say you, meaning conservatives and people that like guns, you kind of say that it's also happening at the same time.
Fair enough.
Okay. Wick, I have another question. You are probably right that in a large-scale conflict, the U.S. government would eventually win if they are run competently and deal with this all competently. would it not be true that if we were completely disarmed, they wouldn't even have to be competent?
Yes, that's just true.
Yeah. So, I guess this is more of the like overall topic of doesn't this increase our odds of there being a victory against tyranny by being armed, even if it is only a victory in the case that the government like isn't ran well?
So I think it's more like empty calories. It gives you a false sense of security, where there no security actually exists. And like I said, or like was said, I didn't say this, but I think Pickle just pointed this out, that it would be a slow erosion that you wouldn't even notice. It would, or if you did notice, none of the steps would be enough in and of itself to get you to rise up. It would be these little things, not enough to get you to rise up, enough to annoy you, and then they'd wait a year, maybe two, make another step, right? Like this would be a long game that they would play.
Or even
And
if you think about it, like the people that are going to make noise from these small incremental changes are going to be identifying themselves as the ones that they would need to get rid of if there was going to be some type of revolution. So there's that
yeah, there would
too.
be a database.
With these small increments, then it sounds like a lot of these are being implemented in where the majority of the populace doesn't really know that they're being implemented or being put in place, and then not and then find out about them until later. That's kind of what I'm understanding from this conversation, is these things are kind of being like not discussed, not talked about enough, and they should be.
Well,
No,
go on.
yeah.
These
So
policies.
no, they're public policies. Everyone knows it. It's just the change is just one little tick
like the
on the scale.
common people.
Yeah, the common
these-
people know it, and everyone knows it. You have to know it to get them to change, but the change is just so small, it's nowhere near enough to warrant, like y'all were saying, a proportional response of I'm going to fight back with my guns.
It's like the story of the camel. Story of the camel in the sandstorm, right? There's a traveler who was going through the desert, and he had a tent, and the sandstorm came, and so he gets in the tent to protect himself, and his camel's outside, and his camel says, "Hey, I'm really suffering out here. Can I just put my nose in, just a little bit?" And so he's like, "Okay, just enough." And the camel's like, "Can I? It still hurts. Can I put a little more in?" And eventually what happens is the person finds himself outside the tent because the camel is totally taking it over, because little itty-bitty steps have been made. Death by 1,000 paper cuts type of deal, where none of the individual steps were enough to be they all seemed reasonable at the time, but eventually became unreasonable. Now, I do not think that the normies care enough, right? Most people, even gunners, people, most of that 40%, as you say, would not rise up even if their guns were taken away tomorrow. They just wouldn't.
I'd say most of those 40% are uneducated.
I think
on what is
that's
happening.
just.
I think they don't know that these policies are being put in place until they find out about it later. Let's be honest, a lot of normies or whatever it is aren't out there, searching through all of these public documents or whatever it may be, and finding about all these legislations until it becomes some mass media story or something of the other.
No, I think that most people value safety and value their safety over their rights. I think that most people, in the case where they would have to go up against the United States military, would lay down their arms. Almost most of them, not all of them, sure, but most of them.
Do you think we could hit that magical 3.5% number?
Oh, that magical made up 3.5%
Yeah,
number?
so we know that you only need a small percentage, but you need it to be, it's probably way more than 3.5 to be able to deal with it. Like, I don't think anybody ever really thinks that like the majority of gun owners are going to be the ones who are fighting back. I think the question would be like, of the percentage that do, is there a large enough base of people that are like more than apathetic to their cause so that the following insurrection isn't immediately snuffed out?
If you want a revolution, there are three things that need to happen. You need two of these three things, right? You need two of these three things. You need the will of the people, you need the power of the military, or you need tons and tons of money. Okay? And so without at least two of these things, you have no shot, no chance. If you have just the military, the people and the money, right? That they'll take it over. But the government, right, has the money and it has the military. And right now, it has the people. If it just lost the people, that would not be enough. You would need something else to happen. Now, what I could see happening in a realistic scenario where there was, say, 10% of the country rose up. Okay, that's a lot. That's a huge number. Okay, 10% of the country rose up. I could see Russia and China using that as an excuse to back the rebels and to not only arm them but also come in, right? But that's a fundamentally different scenario, right? We're having a different conversation.
More of a, are we willing to effectively let foreign actors take over so that we could fight back? Because they wouldn't let us.
They wouldn't let us go after they had us, right?
The soft version of that would be if they started initiating their other foreign policy plans, like if China went into the Pacific while there was internal turmoil in America. And now it's, does America keep fighting its own population, or does it secure its global hegemony demands? That could be a question.
Look, if America descended into any kind of internal conflict, Taiwan would be gone, right? It would be now Chinese, right? Like, and a lot of there would be a huge power play on the world stage by these other actors. But anyway,
I gotta jump out, but I just want to say we can all agree that at least Taiwan does belong to China, right? So, okay, bye.
No, it does not. I will say this.
Okay.
I will say this because we are winding down, and I do gotta go, because I'm hungry and I haven't eaten yet. But thank you for coming on. Thank you for disagreeing or agreeing with me. Appreciate you either way. And we're gonna have Rezi on tomorrow as my guest host. Okay, so tune in for our call-in show. So if you have problems with my take and you haven't gotten a chance to voice them yet, then's the time. If you agree with my take, you can still call in. That's okay. If you have something else you want to talk about, that's what it's for too. Wednesday, we're going to have sensitivity readers at 6 p.m. Eastern. Thursday, we're going to have the xenogender debate at 6 p.m. Eastern. And Friday, perhaps the heaviest, most weightiest of topics, we're going to talk about the obesity epidemic on Friday at 6 p.m. Eastern. So tune in, gang. Give me money, all that good stuff. But for now, we're going to rate out. Who are we rating? Miss Millie, you get to decide. Who?
Oh, shit. Let me see who's on. Fuck.
Have a good night, guys.
Night.
I mean,
Doodly doodly.
What category you want to go into?
Have fun.
You know what? Prime Kai. Let's go to Prime Kai. Well, you know what?
Okay.
No, the paradigm shift was
if you're trying to stay in the political Twitch sphere, then
Please.
I don't know. But if not, then I know somebody else that you
Let's
can go.
You know, the paradigm shift was kind enough to come on my show today, so he deserves a rating. Okay. And we will see you guys later. So, bye everyone.
Bye, y'all.
Bye everyone.
Bye.
Okay. Thanks for coming. Now that we've gotten all those dirty chatters out of here. Oh, I should end the stream on the
Yeah, you should probably
on
do
the
that.
OBS and on the YouTube. Bye YouTube. I don't know how to rate out on YouTube.
Bye YouTube.